consumed. Adrenaline rush, heartbeats race, the thrill of speed taking place. Defend the lead, it's not a chase. Gran Turismo sets the pace. Under moonlit skies we soar. Every pass makes spirits roar.
Welcome to the 5th season of the Nighthawk Racing F1 RST Championship. Firstly, I'm Midnight, and you can find myself and the rest of our community here on the Nighthawk Racing YouTube channel. There are various features and playlists covering non-championship events, mini-series, and our main series of F1 RST with seasons 1 through 4 with full coverage and commentary. All races also feature great competitive action alongside community and team racing, leaving many smiles as well as thrills and spills. Please also check out our Instagram and TikTok, or use the QR code across this video for our link tree and more content and information. And now to the event at hand. Tonight is round 1 of season 5 of the F1 RST Nighthawk Racing Championship. Tonight we are racing at Barcelona, and tonight we'll be covering the red and blue lobby in this video. Before we get to the racing, here is the outline of the racing and championship. We have a 10 event calendar featuring red and blue lobbies this season. There are 2 races per event, with a sprint and feature race at approximately 18 to 20 minutes and at 1 hour to 65 minutes respectively. The grid for the sprint is ordered in reverse average points across the season, although round 1 only will be ordered following the same average points scored following the end of season 4 results. Up next is the main feature race, which is supported by a 10-minute qualifying session. Qualifying itself is highly important, as not only does it set the outright grid for the feature race, but competitors have to begin their strategic calls in qualifying, as when a driver sets their fastest lap, the compound of tyre used on that fastest lap becomes a mandatory tyre compound for the start of the feature race. Here in F1 RST, every session is important and comes with its own rewards. Both racing events come with increasing points for each position gained, as well as a potential fastest lap set of points for those finishing in the top 10. Qualifying itself also rewards the top 3 positions for a little extra dynamic thought and strategy throughout the event and season. This event at Barcelona will have a sprint race of 11 laps and a feature race of 35 laps. As a reminder for all, sprint races have completely open strategy and tyre choice with a rolling start, but the feature race on top of the qualifying start compound requirement also comes with a Grand Prix style grid start. All drivers also have to use 2 different tyre compounds during the feature race. Also, for reference, Red Lobby has restricted driver aids. There is no traction control or ASM to make life a little more difficult for our drivers and to give them that hardcore driving experience, and to also give our viewers some extra entertainment. With that in mind, let's go and have a look with Sarah Hawkey at the track in question for today.
Today we are racing around the beautiful track of Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. It's a track that we all know and love from driving countless laps on Gran Turismo, but also getting to the on-track action from Formula 1 and series like that. But talking about the track itself, let's dive into some more track facts. So today we're going to be racing around the Grand Prix circuit layout without the chicane, don't forget. But it is 2.8 miles or 4.6 kilometers long. Got about 14 turns in total. Obviously we take 2 turns off because of missing the chicane. Obviously, like I said, don't forget that the chicane isn't there. Don't want you driving around the wrong part of the track. But if you can't already tell, the track is based in Spain, and it is known for being one of Europe's busiest tracks, playing host to the high-profile rounds of Formula 1, MotoGP, and becoming the seasonal winter home of the F1 teams, where they test their new cars and drivers. And we all know the track for being quite fast and flowing, and obviously quite high safety requirements. But as of 2023, the circuit is now licensed for all categories to use the variants with or without the chicane, with the majority, including Formula 1, to elect to drive and to race around without the chicane. It's never been the easiest track to overtake on. The track nonetheless hosts a wide range of racing at levels on 2 and 4 wheels. And obviously the track itself, 2 main tarmac layouts, the Grand Prix layout with its long straights and series of fast corners, and it's with the removal of the final chicane, it promotes obviously high speed final right-hander, increasing the track's speed and challenging aerodynamics. And I think we all know the track is quite a high tyre wearing track, so make sure to look after your tyres today, boys and girls.
And we move on to the Blue Lobby Sprint Grid. First race of the season. Sarah, can you give us the first half of the grid, please?
Of course I can. So starting on pole position for the first sprint race of the season is Super Simon. He's back in the BMW M6. Last season he was in the Mclaren, so fancying a little bit of a change. But he's driven that BMW before, so he's looking to improve his performance again in it this season. But just behind him is Damo in the Porsche 911 this season, swapping from the Supra. So again, a change for Damo coming up. Let's see what he can do in that Porsche 911. In P3 we then have Murph Dane in the Supra again this season, continuing what I'd say is a very good performance from last season, so I'm excited to see what he can do. In P4 he was a newcomer the back end of last season, is Chaos Druid. He's gone for the Lexus RCF this season. And then in P5, sticking with the Ferrari, we've got Nigel Mansell, and sporting a very nostalgic livery there in the Ferrari. I'm sure obviously a lot of people will appreciate that. But in P6 we then have Sparky, sticking with the McLaren again from last season. And then in P7, before I hand back to Midnight, is our very own Iceman, sticking with the Genesis, and again looking to improve and carry on his good performance from last season. But over to you, Midnight.
Thank you very much, Sarah. We move on to P8 with Big Crazy Bertie, again in the McLaren this season, looking for a solid start to the season and to improve on previous season. So good luck to him. A little bit of stability might work out really well for him. And then in P9, another one of our admin, one of the co-founders of Nighthawk Racing, our very own Sarah Hawkey, this season in the Lambo instead of that BMW M6. She's going to be hoping for some good results straight off the bat here in the first race at Barcelona. And new to the grid, we have 3 new drivers with Welsh Smurf in that 4GT, absolutely epic livery. See how he gets on with that as well. Dejan Cypher also in the Lambo, another brilliant livery, looking to see him on track, see what he can deliver. And Sturdy Motorsport in that Dodge Viper. An interesting choice of car, but he's definitely flying that American flag, so good luck to him out there. And also we have T50 Gary returning for another season with us, again sporting that GTR livery that we got used to seeing last season, so good luck to him out there. But Sarah, that is our sprint grid. It's going to be an interesting one straight off the bat. Let's see how they get on and hand over to the commentators. And here we are for the opening round of Season 5 Blue Lobby, Season 5, Round 1. So here we go, Simon will be leading the drivers across the line and starting the series, followed by Damo, Murph, Druid, Nigel Mansell and Sparky in the top 6. So here we go, down into Turn 1, that BMW M6 leading the way. And we see Damo looking like he's thinking of a move already, but we got Murph and Druid. Druid going for the move up to P3. Oh, there's contact between Druid and Damo into Turn 1. Looks like they're just about getting away with it. Druid up to P2, Damo P3 and Murph P4 with Nigel in P5. Now going round Turn 3, got all the drivers starting to bunch up a bit. Nigel in that Ferrari going around the outside of Damo. Thinking about it in Turn 4, no, it's fallen back, lost a little bit of inertia. So, Mac, so far all good racing from the drivers. Very minimal contact, but nice, good close racing.
Yeah, very good start for the drivers, and luckily no contact so far on this opening lap. Just want to point out we've someone that I was tracking since the start of the race is Nigel Mansell, who's up into P3 already after starting P5 in that lovely Ferrari. Great start for him. As we see now, we've got side by side between Sparky and Murph heading into the left right-hander, heading up now into this lovely right-hander that comes up onto this back straight, as we've got a bit of grass being kicked up by one of the cars, as Sparky now is trying to keep back about 4 drivers who are all going to be looking for a move into the left-hander. You can see drivers side by side, Murph, Gary side by side, as well as Sparky, and one of the other drivers is Sarah now trying to go down the inside here on Murph, defending from Murph in the Supra. Getting a bit more chaotic here towards the end of the lap as drivers are starting to kind of pull back up to each other, as that standing start sometimes can create gaps within the pack depending on how good of a start that the specific cars get. But we're looking out to the front now. It looks like Nigel might be looking for a move here on Druid into turn 1 already on lap 2 only.
Yeah, that's a cracking start we've had there from Nigel and Druid, to be absolutely fair. The pair of them jumping right up the field. Iceman into P3, Damo holding position in P4, Sparky P5, Sarah in P6. But lots of good moves going on there so far. You can see Druid trying to make a break for it with Nigel in tow out front, followed by Iceman, who's really raised his game in the last couple of seasons. But at the moment, it looks like all drivers still in the same stretch of tarmac. We've got TE50 Gary going for a move up into P7, potentially down the inside of Murph at turn 4. Now on the back of Sarah Hawkey. But there's so many drivers all in close proximity, it's hard to keep track of everything going on. It looks like Simon will have to serve a half-second penalty for something on lap 1.
Yeah, as we're looking now at the field, things starting to calm down as they always do, especially at Barcelona. This track, obviously, we know it for being quite hard to overtake at sometimes, and also pretty easy to defend. But if the other car has a big pace advantage, then it will be quite easy to get a move done onto either the back straight or the front stretches. We're looking now up to the front. Sparky trying to mount a challenge on Damo. As you can see, around the outside of Gary goes Sarah as they head now into this final sector. Bit of contact there as Gary gets a bit loose, hitting the front left quarter panel of Sarah's Lamborghini, but looking like he manages it and keeps it under control as Sparky up at the front, losing a bit of time, I think, through that last sector, getting caught up maybe in the dirty air, going a bit wide there onto the curb, as you can see, struggling behind the dirty air of that Porsche. As you look up to the front now, Nigel has not been able to overtake Druid yet as they head down into turn 1. Druid taking the inside line. That inside line to turn 1 so powerful for defending. Very hard to mount a challenge unless you're on some newer tyres. As Sparky, after getting a 5-10 penalty there in the Mclaren for exceeding track limits, most likely on that last turn we saw him go wide on, which is going to help Gary and Sarah close up to the back of the Mclaren driver.
Yeah, that is almost devastating there for Sparky. That half-second penalty in the middle lap that you will have to serve, slowing down, is going to put him behind 2 or 3 other cars. You see Nigel putting more and more pressure on Druid, holding that inside line for turn 5 there. Druid soaking up the pressure at the moment, but they have Iceman joining the battle now in that Genesis. Now, Mac, I think the next big passing opportunity is going to be down to that hairpin, at the left-hander hairpin coming up, but we do see a gaggle of cars in P4 onwards. Sparky about to lose a bunch of positions, maybe even 4 or 5.
Yeah, well, Sparky actually mounted a move on Damo into turn 5 and managed to make it stick, but that's going to be very short-lived as he has to serve this 5-10 penalty now. Sarah kicking up a bit of gravel in the background, getting very loose, nearly hitting the wall, as Damo, Gary, and now Sarah might get past, but Sparky manages to keep that inside line and getting up on the side door of Gary, not managing to get a move on Gary back as they're fighting once again into that final sector, as Nigel up at the front trying to get past Druid. Still Druid doing a terrific job up at the front, keeping that Ferrari behind, but the cause or the effect of that is that Iceman is now closing right up to the back of him in that Genesis.
There's action wherever we look at the moment, but T50 Gary picking up a half-second penalty. Like Sparky in the lap 4, that is going to be painful. Bertie making a move down the inside. He was 9th at the start of the last lap. He's up to 7th into turn 1, getting ahead of the Hawkster. Sparky looks like he's done alright serving that penalty last lap, only dropping a couple of places. Damo has dropped to P5 with Gary up to P4, but that half-second penalty is going to be an absolute pain. Druid looks like he's weathered the storm a little bit from Nigel, getting a little bit of a gap to Nigel, but now Iceman putting pressure on the man-snail. Where do we look, Matt? Where do we look?
Yeah, seems Sparky serving that penalty backed up a good bit of the pack, which allowed Birdie to gain a few positions, which will be very handy for the McLaren driver. Maybe a bit of a McLaren teamwork. Nah, I'm just messing. Sparky and Birdie now 6th and 7th as they stand both in the 650S. As you saw, Iceman trying to mount a challenge on the Ferrari driver of Nigel, but just not managing to get it done. Just that first sector, very hard to overtake, especially when you're behind the dirty air of that other car. We head down that back straight into this hairpin as Gary had to serve a penalty there, which allows Damo to crawl up the outside and get that move done. But Gary will be challenging there now on the inside and does manage to get it done, and Sparky even getting ahead now.
Oh, that was unfortunate. That was a great move from Damo, trying to go around the outside, but he wrong-footed him in to the left, then right-hander, and Sparky just seizing on it and taking the place back. And now you see Sparky Damo just falling away as he gets caught up in traffic. He went from challenging for 4th down to 9th in about 4 corners there. It just shows you, if you get off onto those marbles, get a bit wrong-footed, the whole lobby is so close, you can drop 3 or 4 places in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, definitely. As we head now down into turn 1, Birdie right on the back of that McLaren rear wing of Sparky, heading down into turn 1. Very, very organised from the drivers. No moves being launched as of yet, as the field settling down once again. Or at this period, 5 laps into the race, as the gaps have kind of formed because of the fighting that they had in that middle sector. But up at the front though, Nigel is just trying to get past Druid still, and Iceman is right on the back of that car in case a mistake happens. In fact, Nigel pushing the rear bumper of that Lexus as they went up the hill, and no move coming as of right now. But we could see something onto the back stretch here as Nigel's already trying to go around the outside. But that's going to give an opportunity for Iceman, who's going to try to launch up the inside into turn 9. But nothing coming of it as of now. Nigel's going to try look for another move here. But Druid guarding that inside line. So powerful at this track. The inside line always seems to be the favourable one when defending. And it is very, very strong when trying to hold off another driver.
Yeah, quite right. It does look like Nigel had the same thing happen to him that happened to Damo in the previous lap. He just got a little bit wrong-footed into a corner and went from challenging for a pass to be then on the defensive, which really changes your priorities really quickly. That these three drivers at the front making a break for it. Gary has spent his penalty and now he's setting off after them again, but unfortunately Sparky gets picked up another one with Bertie now challenging in P6 for that P5. Sarah following him through, and it looks like they've got a bit of a gap to Murph and Damo now, and then Degen Cypher has joined the battle for 9th. We do also have, still in the race, the Welsh Smurf, Super Simon and Sturdy Motorsport. A couple of drivers making the NHR debut today in Sturdy and I believe Smurf at this event. So we have a few newbies around here and a few people really enjoying themselves, challenging for the win and for podiums. And you see Iceman making a move, thinking about making a move wherever he can at this point.
Yeah, I think the gap between Murph and Sarah was formed because I think one or two of the drivers that were involved in the battle between Murph, Damo and Cypher got a bit of a penalty and were battling then heading down into turn 10 on that previous lap. So that's where that gap kind of formed between that pack. As we look up to the front now, it is still 1 Druid, 2 Nigel and 3 Iceman as they fill out the podium spots as of now. But that could easily change as we're just about halfway into this sprint race, heading down into turn 10 now. No moves being made yet as Nigel gets very close to the rear of Druid's car heading out of turn 10, but nothing coming of it as Bertie has overtaken Sparky. The 650Ss have swapped position as Sarah is right on the back of Sparky as well.
One thing I want to draw everyone's attention to is a lot of the drivers at the moment are on those medium tyres, so we'll make it to the end of the race. Druid looks like he is going to make it quite it's going to be interesting towards the end with those front tyres of his, but Nigel looks like he is having a better time of it. But we know that Ferrari is easier on the fronts but harder on the rear, so as he thinks about a move into turn 1, down the outside potentially into turn 1/turn 2, briefly up to first, Druid pushing him to the exit, but holds the inside line. Nigel rightly backing out, but it's going to leave him exposed a little bit to the Iceman. One thing I have to show everyone, Gary, he's on those soft tyres and he is going to be hurting any second now. I think we've actually in fact lost him. I think we have had a disconnect from Gary. Yes, we have indeed. So that is now Bertie up to P4.
Unfortunate there. That's just some things that we can control sometimes, although I'm going to have to cut myself off because that was very close between Nigel and Druid. In fact, Nigel's on the grass, he's on the gravel, trying to go around the outside of Druid as they head now into turn 7 and 8. It looks like no position swap as of yet. Nigel has to back out, so they both make it into that corner, and Nigel's getting very, very slightly on the exit as they head now onto the backstretch. It looks like Iceman is a lot closer to these to the 458, but Nigel is even closer to Druid in front as Iceman's going to try launch down the inside. There's a bit of contact and Druid has been hit off the track by the Genesis driver of Iceman. Iceman's going to let him back past, but that means that Nigel is now up into P1.
Nigel is going to be ecstatic with that. Druid not so much. It looks like Iceman just outbraked himself into the hairpin. So easily done when you're following two other cars in the slipstream into that very heavy braking point. Unlucky there for Iceman and Druid, but Nigel is not going to mind being out in P1. But now you see in P2, Druid is starting to suffer a little bit with that front left tyre wear, so it's going to leave him vulnerable to Iceman. But now in P4 we have Bertie in that Mclaren, who is going to be trying to zero in on the guys in front, with Sparky in P5 and Sarah Hawkey in P6, DJ and Cypher up to P7, Damo P8, Murph P9, Welsh Smurf in P10 for the top 10. Mac, that was unfortunate for Druid and Iceman into that hairpin, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely a very easy mistake to make, especially when there's two drivers fighting in front of you, of course. You know, when you're going side by side like that, you'll just start bleeding time to the drivers behind, and it does make it that the entry speed of the cars be a lot slower in order to actually make both cars fit through that corner. And P7, 8, and 9, which is currently comprised of Cypher, Damo, and Murph, they basically swapped entirely, because if you remember, Murph was in P7, Damo was in P8, and it was Cypher in P9. So great moves from Cypher to get him up into P7, as we are now just looking throughout the field. Up at the front, it's still Nigel in P1 and Druid P2 and Iceman P3. It looks like Iceman might be catching Druid here as they get very close into that turn 10 in the braking zone.
And also, I have to say, it's DGen Cypher's rookie season with us as well, so he's definitely impressing there in P7, despite starting at the back of the grid for this race. But at the front, Iceman putting pressure on Druid. He's going to have to be aware, Iceman, that he may have to face the stewards after the end of the sprint race for that contact. Although he has let Druid back through, he's going to have to be aware, if he does get past Druid, he's going to have to build a gap as well. But the one I'm watching at the moment is Bertie in P4 and Sparky P5, and actually Sarah in P6 as well. All those three cars, the McLarens and the Huracan, are very good on their tyres, and around Barcelona that's exactly what you want. And Nigel looks like he's got things under control at the moment in P1. Those tyres are easily going to make it to the end. Druid's going to start suffering with that front left, and Iceman not as bad, but he's definitely going to have the edge around the right-hand corner, Mac.
Considering previous iterations of the Huracan that used to be in this game, I would never thought I would hear the sentence that the Huracan would be good on tyres, but nowadays it's been made true, as Sarah is trying around the outside of Sparky. Sparky seems to be struggling right now with his mid-corner speed. Does have very good straight line speed in that 650. Yes, you saw Sarah get a good exit, but couldn't catch that straight line speed of the McLaren as they head now into turn 8. As there's a bit of contact there, as Sarah's going to try round the outside into turn 9, see if she can get it done. The Huracan not holding on around the outside, having to do a kind of switchback as they head onto this back straight, heading down to the heavy braking zone of turn 10. Round the outside it would be for Sarah, but Going to be easy for Sparky to cover that off and stay on that inside, and nothing coming of it as of right now. But Sarah will be wanting to get that straight line or that slipstream onto the front straight and try and overtake 650S.
Yeah, quite right. And both liveries looking gorgeous in the daylight sun at Barcelona. Out the front again in P2, P3, Iceman was crawling all over the back of Druid in the final two corners. It does look like Druid is really struggling in right-hand corners now. The next lap is going to be crucial for him to try and retain that position. Bertie picking up a half-second penalty. Sparky and Sarah still going at it down the main straight, but Sparky with... No, sorry, Bertie with the half-second penalty. Sparky going defensive. We've got just behind that Damo on the back of Cypher, looking for a move down to turn one. Nope, just a fake out. Degen holding the position with the better tyres as well. And I know what you mean, Mac, having that Huracan is good on tyres. It don't feel right, does it? But this is how BOP moves across the seasons.
We see there's a challenge at the front now between Iceman and Druid. Iceman just set the fastest sector 1 of the race, even on those old medium tyres. He's going to try it around the outside now as they head through turn 6 and into turn 7. The Genesis might not be able to hold on around the outside, and it won't as... Oh, he's gone sideways, and he spun round out of P3. Birdie's going to be coming up now in Harris, that last podium position, and it is absolute dreams crushed for Iceman as he spins his way out of turn 8 and out of the podium positions.
Oh, from the ecstasy to the agony on that one. But that is going to be brilliant for Druid. He's going to now secure P2. But Iceman dropping 4 places down to P6 straight away. But Sparky and Sarah still going at it. Iceman unlucky. Just lit up those rear tyres when forced a little bit wide onto those marbles. But good driving from those pair, I feel, Mac. I don't think Druid did anything wrong. It just showed Iceman that he couldn't have the apex of the corner there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's those tyres were getting very worn. As I mentioned, Iceman was really pushing, setting that fastest sector 1. But that just showed how much Iceman was pushing, and maybe pushed just a bit too much towards the end of the race. We're on to the final lap now for the front 5 as everyone's going to cross the line to start the final lap of this sprint race. Hawkey is still trying to mount a challenge on the 650S of Sparky. That's probably our closest fight in the field right now, I'd say. But we'll have to see if she can get the move done before
Sparky
the last corner of this lap. As yes, Sparky's just got a penalty there for exceeding the track limits in the turn 1-2 chicane. So that's very unfortunate for him, but Sarah is going to be jumping with joy at that site as she might be able to inherit P4 unless Sparky can pull out a few purple sectors and pull away from that Huracan.
Yeah, that is going to be an absolute delight for Sarah. And Sparky has run wide anyway. Sarah down the inside and taking P4. Didn't need that penalty. Sparky's just going to have to be sensible now, realise the position is probably gone, and just bring the car home in P5. At P1 at the moment, Nigel, he has secured the win, it looks like. Druid, he's starting to suffer with that medium tyre on the front right. He's going to have to, front left, sorry, he's going to have to be aware of that for the feature race. Another couple of laps and Bertie might have got him. Sarah P4 with Sparky P5. Matt, it looks like Nigel has made it work. He's been patient throughout the opening laps and then seized the opportunity to take the win here today for the round 1 blue sprint race.
Absolutely, Nigel stayed patient, and Iceman answered after that contact with Druid. He's going to come home in P1 with Druid following behind in P2. Birdie's going to inherit that P3 position after Iceman spinning out on turn 7. Sarah's going to come home in a brilliant P4 after overtaking Sparky, including that penalty. Iceman home P6 after a nightmare finish, spinning out of P7.
Hello, Murph's up to P7.
Oh, Murph's in P7, sorry. Iceman in P6, Damo in P8. Cypher's going on P9 after just saying Cypher got up to P7. The position swapped once again. Murph coming home in that 4GT in 10th position. Simon making his way into the final corner now in the M6 in 11th. And I think Sturdy has had a few issues with his front left tyre throughout this. Yes, there you go. The Viper not treating the tyres very well on those soft tyres and just struggling towards the end of the race with that in P12. And that's going to round out the finishing positions for this sprint race, round 1 of this season.
and Serdi trying the new F1 layout there. But it's a learning experience, particularly with the tyre wear the way it is and the cars the way they are, and this being Barcelona. Soft tyres, unfortunately, the wrong choice for Sturdy on that one, but it's good to see him on track and new to us, so I hope he has enjoyed this event. But we know he will improve, and we will see some much better racing going forwards. And yes, Smurf with his first race as well as D-Gen. Good to see all of these ladies and gents enjoying themselves out there and bringing home some points in either the first or the multiple blue race lobby. So, Mac, that was a fun race, but Nigel taking the win. Druid somewhat lucky to get away with that contact and get into keep P2 with Bertie chasing Mendale. Iceman, though, unlucky with that spin, but it was great to see him racing at the front there, and he is one of the highlights for me across the last season or two to see how much he has improved, and it should be set as an example for all the other drivers just coming in where they can get to.
Yeah, definitely interesting race, and I think that race has told me it's going to be a heavily tyre-focused race. You saw the softs for some were working, and then towards the end of the race, of course, Sturdy on the soft tyres, them running out. Gary, we were going to see how his car treated tyres, but until that lag issue that caused him to drop out of the race, we were kind of just observing that. But you can see the mediums lasting the majority of the sprint race and still having a good bit of life left in them. Going to be interested to see how that strategy is going to play into this feature. And I think a lot of drivers doing very well in that sprint race and some good overtakes as well. I mean, we usually, when we think of Barcelona, we usually don't think of a very good overtaking track, but these GR3 cars with the bop, very good, and also just the skill spread of the drivers across the grid. And we see some really good overtakes in this race, and I'm looking forward to the feature now to see how this plays out.
Yeah, exactly that. And with that in mind, Matt, let's go and check out that feature, see how they all got on.
So now onto the sprint race starting grid for the red lobby, and I'm going to hand over to Midnight, who's going to run through the first half of the grid.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. So yes, for the first race of the season, let's get this started. We have Koulios, who will be starting on pole this season in the McLaren, going a different route out of the NSX from last season. And then we have in P2 Sidley, who has stayed with the Lexus that RCF, doing well in quite a few races last season, so looking to build upon that. Then we have the head of Isuzu Racing, Coach himself, in a gorgeous red Supra livery, and he's going to be looking for some big points straight off the bat. Then we have Charlie this season in that BMW M6 out of that 4GT, which he's very happy about, starting P4, and he will be looking to capitalise straight away. In P5 we have Sophie, who again has changed car. We're used to seeing her in that awesome Ferrari, which will get brilliant starts out of it, but this season going with that R8, trying something different. Then we have Kirk, again another driver who has changed away from his beloved Dodge Viper into the Genesis with a gorgeous livery on that one as well, so good luck to him out there. Then we have Sophia changing to the AMG this season away from that R8, looking for a little bit more success because that R8 was a little bit inconsistent for her, but what can we say? Always keep an eye on Sophia, she always brings the pace. And Sarah, speaking of bringing the pace, that takes us to P8, if you'd like to go from there.
Yeah, so talking about pace, in P8 we have our Season 3 champion, Katie Kai, back in the Nissan GTR and looking to maybe potentially be champion again this season, you never know. But in P9 we then have our very own admin, Pedro. He's swapped from the BMW into that Lamborghini Huracan, so going for a new car. So let's see how Pedro can do in that Lambo. But just behind him in P10 we have Fodder in the Porsche 911 again, looking to have carry on a good performance from last season, so let's see what he can do. In P11, our very own Midnight ISO, one half of Nighthawk Racing, staying with the McLaren again this season in that very devilish red livery. So looking to have a good season, I hope. But in the P12, we then have Mercedes. He swapped from the Porsche 11 to the GTR. So again, new beginnings for Mercedes. So let's see what he can do. And in P13, return of the Mac and Mac Manley is our very own Lewis Hamilton this season. We normally see him in a Mercedes, but he's gone into the Ferrari, and he's sporting a very all carboned out Ferrari look. So excited to see how he does in the Ferrari for this season, Midnight.
Yeah, quite right. And we know from Mac he has a lot of pace as well. And he's having a bit of an experiment with that 458. So he's going to be enjoying himself, I'm sure. But I think we have to look around the grid. There's some big names in there, some very fast bods. I don't really know who to be looking out for, other than obviously Katie Lekai. He's obviously going to be the danger man straight off to begin with. But obviously keep an eye out for Mac, and I think particularly Wise Fodderboy on this one. Always looking dangerous, particularly in the pre-season testing. With that in mind, Sarah, anyone you're going to be keeping an eye out for before we get into the race?
Oh, like you say, I'm going to obviously be looking at Katie Lekai as well. Obviously, we know the Dark Lord was crowned the champion last season, so I think Katie Lekai wants that champion status back. So he'll be trying his bestest to have a good start to the season. But apart from Katie Lekai, I'd like to see how Charlie gets on with the new car, as well as Sophie. I'd say Kirk, obviously very outlandish car last time in the Dodge Viper, so he'd looking to maybe potentially have a better season in the Genesis. Apart from that, I think anyone could really do well here. Obviously Barcelona is quite a tricky and a very tyre degrading track, so it's going to be strategy for sure. Obviously sprint race, short and sweet, but also tyres will have to be on the forefront of people's mind. So I think anyone could do well here, so I'm excited to see how everyone gets on.
Quite right, and this is, for those that know, right off the back of our endurance race set around the same track. So some of the drivers are getting a little bit more practice around here than others, but we'll see how that all pays off going into the race. With that in mind, so we should kick off the Red Lobby first race of the season and hand over to the commentators.
So the cars are rolling down the start-finish straight, getting ready for round 1 of Season 5, Red Lobby. I'm joined by the Dark Lord, Season 4's champion, first time in the commentary booth, but everyone's heading over the start-finish straight. At the moment, we've got Koulias leading the pack away into Turn 1, with Sicily quite close behind. Sicily looking for an early move, but will he be able to get past Koulias? Everyone else behind, it looks like they're waiting patiently for a gap to emerge. But Louis, have you spotted anything so far?
No, not so far, Sarah. Everyone seems to be sort of line astern. There's no change of positions that I can see so far. So everyone seems to have gotten away cleanly, which is always nice to see.
I couldn't agree more. You know, the Red Lobby, I know they're known for their little bit of aggressive driving, but like I said, everyone looks like they've got away nice and clean, which is a great start to Season 5. The shenanigans we had in Season 4, as you well know. Lots of crazy moments, but talking about crazy moments, Kirk's already gone for a move on Sophia, and unfortunately the two have come together, and that has sent Kirk into the barriers. I don't think he'll be very happy about that, Louis.
No, not at all there. It looks like, from what I could see, that Kirk came out the corner and just maybe didn't quite give Sophia enough space there on the exit, and it just caught the back of his car and spun him round, unfortunately. So he'll be disappointed with that. Not the greatest start to the season for Kirk there.
But it's all to play for in the sprint race. Obviously, not like you say, not the greatest start for his Season 5 campaign, but I'm sure he'll be able to hopefully put it past him. But I just had a look at Fodder as well. Fodder looked like he dipped a wheel into the gravel and lost a few places there, and currently is tussling side by side with Mercedes and McManley. McManley in the Ferrari this season, chosen to stay in the Ferrari. Season 4 he did a couple of races with us, seemed to gel with that Ferrari, so good to see him back. But yeah, unfortunately Mac losing a few points positions as well. We've also got Katie Lekai going for a move on Sophie here. Sophie in the R8. The R8 is a car that we don't see used a lot, Louis, so I'm intrigued to see how Sophie gets on with this car.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a tricky car to drive. It's not one. I mean, I had a quick test in it pre-season, and it's not one that I enjoy. It's very twitchy rear end, but so she's a brave driver picking that for the season. But it's nice to see different cars getting used, not everyone using the same thing, which is it's nice to see.
Can definitely tell what the favourite cars this season. There's quite a lot of McLarens and GTRs and a few Lamborghinis as well that I've seen across the both lobbies. So yeah, like you say, interesting choice in the R8, but hopefully she can show us what she's capable in that car. Having a look up at the lead again, Koulios has managed to make a little bit of a clean break from Sitaly. Good, obviously, start to the season for Koulios. Let's see if he can keep that lead. But Coach as well, not too far behind Sitaly. Obviously, both of them, Sitaly and Coach, from Fusutu Racing, so I'm sure they're enjoying battling side by side. Katie the Kai also looking to make a move on Charlie. Charlie picking a new car for the season in the BMW. Again, I'll be interested to see how he gets on. He moaned numerous times about that Ford GT, so hopefully he enjoys the BMW a little bit more. But
Yeah.
other than that,
I think I've seen Sophia has got past Sophie. I think Sophie lost the rear. They're talking about the rear of that R8. I think she lost it coming out of the chicane at turns. I think it's 6 or 7 or 7 and 8. Just lost the rear coming out of the exit there, and Sophia got past last lap. So she's made a position there into P6.
Bit of elbows out between Sitaly and Coach there. Sitaly losing 2 positions onto the start, actually 3 positions on the start of lap 3. 4 positions. I need to wait for the drivers to go past before I decide how many positions. But yeah, unfortunately, it looked like elbows out between Coach and Sitaly, and it looks like Coach is about to lose a couple of places as well. So unfortunately, those 2 drivers from Fusutu losing out on the start of lap 3, Louis.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just going side by side there, and I said it's very easy to make side contact there, and it's just let the other 3 go through. So yeah, dropping there from 2nd and 3rd to 5th and 6th. They'll be a little bit disappointed with that one, but plenty of time to make the positions back up. As see Sophie going past Sicily as well, and Sicily going off there.
Fortunate for Sitaly there. Hopefully didn't pick up any damage. That's not what you want, obviously, this early into the sprint race. But luckily for them, the damage will go if he did pick up any. But Katie the Kai looks like he's going to make a dive on Charlie here. Katie the Kai taking that inside line. Charlie on the outside. And it looks like quite an easy move done by Katie the Kai there.
Yeah, nice move there. Nice up the inside. Left plenty of space there. And yeah, good move there by Kai. And he'll be looking to chase down Koulios now. So that'll be interesting the next couple of laps to see how quickly he can close that gap up.
Yeah, like in the meantime, when we were looking at Katie the Kai, Fodder made a very sneaky move up on the inside of Midnight there as well. So Midnight unfortunately losing a position to Fodder, but it's good to see Fodder getting back into the swing of things. Obviously dipping that wheel in the gravel very early on, but he's found the momentum again in that Porsche, which is great. Pedro in the new car as well for this season in the Lamborghini, not too far behind Midnight. So I don't know about you, Louis, but it seems like it's action all the way across the grid today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen some good moves the first 2 laps. So looks like now it's sort of starting to settle down a little bit now. People sort of getting into the groove now and just trying to pump some good laps in. And I'm sure we'll see some more moves later on in the race.
I don't know about you, but I think at the moment, touch wood, fingers crossed and all that, all the drivers seem to be behaving quite well. Obviously, this is our first race back in a couple of months, so hopefully, the drivers are pumped, eager and excited to get it going, but they all look pretty well behaved at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, as we all know, we're all very competitive and we all want to do as well as we can, and we all do try and race as clean as possible. So I say we're just sort of blowing the cobwebs off this first race for everybody, and I'm sure the standard is always very good anyway, but it'll only get better as we get further into the season. So as we see Sophia getting past Charlie there as well, or Charlie coming back there though. Good side by side action there between the 2.
Yeah, it looks like Charlie didn't want to make that move easy for Sophia there, but and Sophia breaking a lot earlier there, maybe potentially cut in Charlie up. But yeah, obviously Charlie not too far behind from that podium position at the moment, so I'm sure he's eager to fight Sophia for that last spot on the podium. Just having a quick look behind as well, we have Sophie potentially eyeing up a move on Coach here, and just in front of them, like I say, that battle still brewing between Charlie and Sophia. And it looks like Sophie has managed to get past Coach into that turn 2. Looked like quite a hard move to complete. Obviously, she nearly dipped Will in the sand there, but good to see, obviously, doing very well in that R8 currently. But, having a quick look a little bit further back, it looks like, obviously, unfortunately, City losing quite a few positions after that tussle with Coach a little bit earlier on. But it's good to see Kirk, obviously, after that little bit of a mistake on that lap 1, has managed to try and find the momentum. He can just about see the grid in front of him, so he's catching up slowly but surely. That Genesis being a bit of a difficult car to drive. But, currently we have a little bit of a battle between Pedro, Fodder. Well, it looked like Fodder, unfortunately, I don't know what happened to him there, must have missed that one, but he lost quite a few positions there. He looked like he was battling with Midnight, but losing 3 or 4 spaces there, Louis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't see what happened there, but yeah, he was quite slow at that corner there, and he's dropped a couple of places. So just giving Sophie a little bit of breathing room there from the cars behind as well. So yeah, we've got these sort of 6 all in a row here, all battling. So let's hope they can keep it clean.
Yeah, it makes our job a lot harder to keep tabs on all of these drivers, but I think they just like to make our job a little bit harder. But we'll try our best to see what happens between these 6 drivers here. It's I think obviously it's great to see action across the grid, but like I say, it makes our job a lot harder because trying to keep tabs on all these drivers and the drivers in front is quite a difficult job to do. Well, it looks like Midnight nearly got acquainted to the rear of Coach's Supra there, but just about manages to break enough for that corner so that the two don't make contact. But it looks like Midnight potentially might be trying to either force Coach into a mistake or try and find a gap to get past him. Looks like Midnight breaking a little bit later than Coach there. Coach obviously under pressure from the I nearly said Mercedes. I meant McLaren. I've never seen Midnight.
We'll never see Midnight in a Mercedes.
Yeah,
it just won't happen.
Yeah,
he
if
makes
it
the
happens,
move there though. Good move though by Midnight though up the inside there of Coach.
Yeah, like I say, I think Midnight was eager to make that move, done and dusted, so he can be released a little bit, try and catch Sophie. But it looks like that battle between Charlie and Sophia has got a little bit closer this lap. It looks like the two are going side by side into that tight left-hand corner, but Charlie's still behind Sophia at the moment, but seems to be gelling with that BMW so far.
Yes, absolutely right. I think Sophia had a little penalty that lap that's allowed Charlie to catch right back up, so he's going to be on her down the pit straight. It's going to be interesting to turn 1 between those two.
Like Max going for a move on Fodder here onto lap number 7. Obviously still having 4 laps to go. The battles are not over yet, but Mercedes looks like he gave Mac a little bit of a bump there, potentially trying to eye up a move on Fodder as well, 2 for the price of 1, but unfortunately Mercedes not being able to get that move completed on Fodder, but he's trying to find a gap in the inside line of Fodder, capping it off, saying not today Mercedes. Obviously Mercedes changing car as well. He's gone for the GTR this season. Everyone else at the moment, Pedro going for a move up on the inside of Coach as well. So unfortunately Coach losing 2 positions within a couple of laps. But he's defending quite hard at the moment, his Coach. Obviously that's allowed Mac to catch up a little bit as well. And Mac getting the move done on Pedro. I don't think Pedro was quite ready for Mac to go up the inside there, Louis.
No, definitely an opportunistic move there from Mac, and he'll be looking to get past Coach as quick as he can and try and chase down Midnight, I'm sure.
And it looks like somewhere, although as I was saying that, Sicily got past Kirk, but then Kirk just got past Sicily again. So those 2 drivers yo-yoing about. Good to see, obviously, those 2 having a little bit of a battle in the sprint race as well. I don't know about you, but I always kind of find the sprint race is obviously your first opportunity if you haven't managed to do a lot of practice. The sprint race is where you hopefully you build your strategy for the feature. last minute practice in a way, I guess. But I think some of the drivers obviously being aware that this track especially is going to be quite hard on the tyres in that future race.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it just gives you that little bit of time just to sort of bed yourself into the track and get used to the car with fuel and tyre wear and stuff like that. So yeah, and it is a good warm up for the feature race. So the drivers will be sort of pushing it, but not pushing it too hard, I'm sure, just to get a feel of, I say, the tyre wear and things like that. So
yeah, find their limits, but not push over those that limit. But talking about limits, looks like Katie Kai is on the limit at the moment, trying to catch Koulias. Obviously, you and Kai have raced quite a lot side by side. Do you think Kai can overtake Koulias for the win here?
well, he's caught up a good chunk of that gap that he had sort of 4 laps ago. So I mean, tyre wear. I mean, Koulias does have the tyre advantage, so he is going to have that in his favour coming towards the end of the race. But Kai is probably about 3-4 tenths a lap quicker, so it's going to be very interesting the last 3 laps between these two as to whether or not Kai can sort of negate that tyre wear and get past Koulias. And we know Koulias is not one to let people past easily, so let's see. He's not going to make it an easy job for Kai to get the win here.
And I think we've all had our fair share of very defensive driving from Koulias and Kai as well. So obviously those two, I'm sure, battle hard within that last couple of laps. So we'll have to keep an eye on that gap coming down and down. But it looks like Sophia picking up another half-a-second penalty, which won't put her in the best shape. Obviously, Charlie not too far behind, and it looks like Sophie and Midnight as well might try and capitalise on obviously Sophia having to spend that penalty. But it looks like the battle for P8 all the way down to P11 is still quite hot at the moment. Fodder and McManley racing side by side on lap number 9 into turn 1. Mac on the inside line, Fodder taking the slightly wider line, Pedro nearly coming into contact with the Porsche. But meanwhile, I'm sure Coach will be looking in his rearview mirror, trying his best not to get involved in all that shenanigans behind him.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. We've got these 5 together here, all jostling non-stop. This is going to be interesting. All different amounts of tyre wear going on as well, so they need to be careful here between them. They don't sort of outbreak themselves and punt each other up. Looks like Max made the move there on Coach, and Fodder going up the inside as well.
Yeah, obviously those 4 or 5 drivers having probably the race of their lives, having a good battle between those guys. And talking about moves as well, we just had a different leader, Katie Dekai, going up on the inside of Koulias there. So Katie Dekai now in the lead, obviously looking to establish an early lead in the championship, I'm sure. Obviously, hopefully, taking the momentum from the sprint race into that feature race. I'm sure that will play into Katie Dekai's favour here. But Koulias not too far behind at the moment. But let's see if he can pile a little bit of pressure onto Katie Dekai, make obviously his job a lot harder. We're looking slightly further back. Sophia is still in that P3 position at the moment, so not losing too much time burning that penalty. But that has brought Charlie back into her clutches at the moment. It looks like Midnight lost a little bit of time to that pack, but looking a little bit further behind. Pedro potentially going for a move on the inside of Coach here. And Mercedes playing the team player game here. He gave a little bit of a bump to Pedro into that turn 1. Will it help Pedro out by making that move stuck? And he does. And Mercedes this time does manage to get that move done on Coach as well. So
yeah, nice
just
move,
goes to show when you.
The 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Just goes to show sometimes if you help another driver out, it can benefit you as well. So good move by Mercedes and Pedro there. And a little birdie has just told me that the tyre situation on Sophia's Mercedes is looking a little bit worse, where, as you can see on the screen, that front left-hand tyre has seen better days. Unfortunately, obviously, Charlie's tyre just behind looks in better shape, so that could play into Charlie's favour here, going on to the last lap after this section here. It looks like Sophia going a little bit wide there. Let's see if Charlie can make that move stick on Sophia, or I think we'll see a very defensive Sophia in the last lap here, Louis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not sure that tyre will even last another lap, and we know now, obviously, the tyre physics on the game, it it doesn't allow you to drive on a bold tyre anymore like it used to. And actually, Sophie with her tyres are looking really, really strong right behind these two. So it could be one to watch here on the last lap for this last podium position.
Obviously, take us into the. Oh, I was going to say take us into the driver's perspective, but it looks like Charlie, a little bit of a mistake from Sophia. They're going wide, but that has brought Sophie into the swing of things. I was going to say, would Charlie be looking in front or behind him? But I think he's going to be looking to the side of him at the moment, as Sophie in that R8 brakes a lot later. Will she get into the corner first? She will do, and that brings her into that P3, the last spot of the podium there, Louis.
Yeah, brilliant. Charlie down the side. I said with her tyre wear, she might be able to sort of just put a little gap here on Charlie and probably hold on to that P3. And we've got Midnight now gone past Sophia as well. She's now, her tyre's gone. That tyre on that Mercedes is giving up the ghost, unfortunately. So, I mean, we're interested to see if Fodder can even catch her from that far back.
Like you say, obviously the game physics not allowing drivers to drive on bald or dead tyres, and it just goes to show it's affected her pace quite a bit there. She's already lost obviously 3 positions within the last half a lap. So like you say, Fodder is on the scene now. He's not too far behind, so obviously she'll be crawling to get to that finish line as soon as she can. But Fodder obviously having a little bit of tyre advantage. Will he be able to catch her? And obviously Mac not too far behind as well, so it's all going to heat up within these final few corners. She might just have enough to get her round, but it's going to be a close one. As I say that, the two getting closer and closer to each other. Fodder potentially eyeing up a move from the inside, but Sophia trying to cap him off. Although she goes wide and she puts a few wheels onto the gravel, which lets 3 cars through. Lets Fodder, Mac and Pedro through. So and Mercedes
as well.
Oh, she's not going to like that, Louis.
No, unfortunately, I think there might have been a tiny little tap there from Fodder possibly into that second to last corner, and she had no grip at all and just couldn't do anything there.
Obviously, I'm sure she'll use that, that knowledge behind her for, trying to plan a strategy call in the feature race. Or she knows that Mercedes is not going to last 11 laps on the mediums. But I'll give a quick rundown of the finishing positions, and then we'll talk a little bit about the obviously the first sprint race of the season. But coming home in first, we have Kaidi Dakai. Obviously, had a bit of a challenge on his hands to catch the drivers in front, but he manages to do it, and I'm sure obviously giving him a bit of momentum going into that feature race. Koulios having probably the race of his life as well, managing to hold on to that P2 spot, and what a race from Sophie in that R8. And just go show you, a car that's not used very much can still be a quite good car to choose, so she gets into that P3 position. Not too far behind, we have Charlie in the BMW, and Midnight having a good finish as well in that P5 spot. Just further behind, we have Fodder in the Porsche, and Louis, if you want to run down the rest of the grid for me.
Yeah, then we had Mac coming in behind there in the 458, so I think he started back of the grid, I think, Mac, so he'll be sort of happy to make up a few positions there. Pedro in the Huracan finishing behind Mac, and then Mercedes will probably be a little bit disappointed, probably finishing that far back in the GTR, so we wanted a better result than that in the feature race. Sophia, unfortunately, with that tyre just let go on the last lap, and she just had no grip, no pace, unfortunately, so she dropped from battling from the podium position, unfortunately, right down to near the back of the grid. Then Coach, again, who was up battling near the sort of front end of the grid, the first sort of half, 3/4 of the race, before he dropped down. Kirk, who had obviously the spin on lap 1, and Sitterly, who I think pitted and came out on soft tyres, I think, so finishing at the back of the pack there.
Thank you very much for doing that, Louis. But what a sprint race that was. I think that was the best way to open up season 5. Obviously, like you said earlier, dust off the cobwebs, get back into the swing of things, and I'm sure obviously drivers now eager to get into that feature race, and let's go and see what they can do.
Absolutely.
And with the sprint race over, we now move on to the qualifying results, which will form the grid for our upcoming feature race. So straight off the bat, Sarah, this looks like an interesting one already. We can see a interesting set of choices when it comes to strategy. Remember, those drivers setting their fastest lap in qualifying will have to use the same compound tyre for the starting tyre for the future race. So with that in mind, we have T50 Gary taking pole position with a 1 minute 42.1, just 1/10 of a second ahead of our Nigel Mansell in P2, but crucially Nigel on the medium tyre, so he may not be the fastest off the line with that, but he's going to be a bit more deadly a couple of laps in, especially with the tyre wear around here at Barcelona. Then we have Iceman with a 1 minute 43.2, a good lap all things considered, especially in that Genesis. Let's see what he can bring out to show in the feature race. Then we have our very own Sarah Hawkey with a 1 minute 43.5. I can already see a potential battle brewing with Iceman right there, so battle for the podium potentially. Then we have in P5, new to the championship, Chaos Druid. A couple of races last season. Let's see if he can find a home here with us, starting P5 on a 1 minute 43.6, only 1/10 behind Sarah. And in P6 as well, we have Sparky in that McLaren, also on the medium tyre on a 1 minute 44 flat. And then we have our very own Big Crazy Bertie on the hard tyre, sitting in 1 minute 44.3. He's going to be one to watch in this one, Sarah, I feel. Just for the sheer fact he's going to probably go longer into the race than anyone else. So at very least, at the end of the first stint, maybe we'll see him leading the race. See where that goes for him. But Sarah, would you like to do P8 downwards, please?
Yeah, and obviously talking about Bertie as well, setting a blisteringly fast lap time on those hard tyres as well. So really putting a twist on the strategies around, obviously people around him as well. But in P8 we have Murph setting a time of a 1:44.9 on the mediums. Then in P9 we have a Damo also joining Bertie by picking the hard tyres and setting a time of a 1:45.1. And then just behind him we have Super Simon setting his time on the medium tyres but setting a time of a 1:45.7. And one of our newcomers to the grid is Dijon Cypher setting time on the hards with a 1:45.7. And just behind we have Welsh Smurf in that 4GT setting a time of a 1:46 flat on the medium tyres. And then rounding off our grid today we have Sturdy Motorsport setting the times on softs, so looking for a quick getaway, but setting the time for 1:48.1.
Well, Sarah, I think that sets us up really nicely for the first blue feature race of the season. And I have to say that there's a lot of different strategy calls in this one, but there's a couple of drivers I am going to be really keeping an eye on, particularly Big Crazy Bertie, and I feel Nigel Mansell is in prime position there with that medium tyre, only a 10th of a second behind Gary, who we know is super fast and a multiple podium sitter himself. So I can't help but think I just want to get on with the racing. Should we hand over to the commentators and see what happens?
Yeah, let's do it.
And we're lined up on the grid here now for round one, the feature race here at Barcelona. Fiber lights. Lights out and away we go. Nigel gets a great start there from P2 on the grid, and he's already going to be ahead of Gary, I'd say, as they head into turn one. The GTR not getting the best of starts. Nigel pulls over to the left-hand side and he's ahead into turn one. Iceman going to be challenging on the inside in the Genesis, going side by side, but Gary has that outside line. Pulls off from the Genesis drivers. Now he's under pressure from Druid and Sarah behind, heading into turn three now. This long right-hander will be punching the tires for the drivers in later on in this race, as it looks like Iceman manages to hold position, but I can't say the same for Druid, as Druid's under pressure from Sparky and getting overtaken by Sarah earlier on in turn three, as we now file our way down into turn five. Looks like all the drivers keeping it clean so far, no incidents whatsoever, so that's great, as they are heading now through turn 6 and 7. No moves being launched right now. Looking throughout the field, looks like the field actually got pretty spread out. There was no bunching up except for really turn 1, 2, and 3. Everyone has someone off in the background, actually. Sorry, I believe that might be Murph off in the background of turn 8, and it is the super driver spinning out at turn 8, and unfortunately kicking up the grass and getting stuck out by the barriers. Nigel defending from Gary there, no move being made from the GTR driver, as Nigel will hold the lead as they're about to close out lap 1, followed by Gary, followed by Iceman, who just does a slide through turn 12, managing to hold on to it. And Sarah in P4 after a great start, getting past Druid and Sparky. So a good first lap there from all of the drivers, Midnight, except for that spin in turn 8 for Murph, but it looks like fairly clean and a fairly spread out grid.
Yeah, I would entirely agree with that. Bad luck for Murph. I have seen Sparky run wide in final 2 corners, now getting passed by Bertie. Sparky picking up that 1 second penalty. We've got a couple of moves going on. Bertie down into turn 1 up to 6. We've also got Smurf on Dejan Cypher into turn 1 as well. Out front, we do have Nigel on those medium tyres, making the best of the tyres that he's got. And Gary's going to be wanting to get past him very quickly indeed, because he's got those soft tyres, which we know tend to switch cheese rather quickly around here. Iceman in P3, like where he was most of the sprint earlier on. We have Sarah in a very solid P4, looking very good in that Huracan at the moment, with Druid in P5. You still have that battle between the two McLaren sort of teammates in P6 and 7. Those two still going at it, but Sparky's going to lose a bunch of time there. He's going to have to try and nail that down for the rest of the feature race, because he's not going to be wanting to get those time penalties that he saw in the sprint race. But you do see Sparky has got down the inside. Bertie running a little bit wide, but that position is going to be handed straight back. Good racing all round, Mac. I do agree with you on that one, but we do see a change of position out front. Gary has got past Nigel, both of them though, with a half-second penalty.
Gary sent a move down the inside into turn 5, almost caught Nigel napping as he went down the inside in turn 5, managed to keep it on the exit, and they both got that 5-10 penalty after running wide into turn 9. Very easy to do, very hard. It's almost like a blind corner just because of the undulation of the track, as Gary has had an issue here, and he's dropped to P3. I'm not really sure what happened there. I think he got a bit wide onto the curb and kicked up a bit of gravel just entering into that final corner, but dropping 2 positions now as he heads down into P3. Nigel inherits that race lead once again, but with that 5-10 penalty, he might lose a position again then to Sarah. So by the end of this, it might be Iceman leading the race if he can keep on the back of the 458. But Gary is starting to catch back up to that Genesis. Of course, Gary is on those soft tires, so he's going to have some pretty good performance out of those at the start of this race. And he's using it right now as he heads down the inside into turn 4 on Iceman and managed to get that position back up. He'll be trying to hunt down Nigel, who's on them medium tires, but with both of them having a 5-10 penalty, Iceman is probably going to get the upper hand and get that P1 back.
Yeah, I do think at very least Iceman's going to get up to P2 here, but he's going to struggle even with that half-second penalty with Nigel to get to P1, but it is going to be very, very tight. The two drivers looking best at the moment, just through sheer consistency, are Iceman and our very own Sarah Hawkey. But let's see what happens here. Going across the penalty lines, Nigel serves his penalty, Gary serves his penalty. Here comes Iceman down the outside, Gary just going very defensive, and with those soft tyres holding off Iceman. That's a good bit of driving from the pair of them. Sarah slotting in behind, and Iceman somehow picking up a half-second penalty somewhere. I didn't quite see how he managed that, Mac, but that's GT7 for you. Sparky up to P6. We somewhere lost Bertie. He was running side by side with Sparky, so he has disappeared down the order. Damon went up to P7. Murph recovering to P8. That's quite a quick recovery from Murph there, despite that spin. And Deidre and Cypher P9, Welsh Murph P10, and Bertie at the back after what I would presume was a fairly major incident, because I think he's been to the pits, gone to medium tyres, and he's got a full tank of fuel again.
Yeah, just to clarify, Iceman got that penalty again on turn 9, just like Nigel and Gary had done the lap before. That turn 9, the track limits. Of course, there is gravel on the edge of that corner, but it is still possible to get your entire car over the white line without touching the gravel. So that's what he did, as Iceman's under pressure now from Sarah. Even with that 5-10 penalty, Sarah's going to try down the inside on Iceman into turn 4. As Iceman gets a snap of oversteer. Very strange, right in the middle of that corner, and is going to manage to get back ahead of the Huracan, but that was a very weird snap, as you saw Midnight on the exit of turn 4. Just to clarify as well, Bertie had an incident while trying to chase down Sparky on lap 2 of the race in turn 9. Again, it seems turn 9 is just causing all these issues for the drivers. Into turn 9, got on the inside curb on the right hand side, dipped the wheel into the grass on the inside, causing the spin round. He got front right damage, sorry, after he spun onto the inside barrier. Gary trying to force the issue on the inside here as Nigel's gone way deep into turn 10, and that allows the GTR driver to steam ahead into turn 10 and get ahead of Nigel. That was a very strange mistake from Nigel. He wasn't really under pressure, like Gary wasn't really on the inside, but he still braked too late and just missed the corner early.
Yeah, it's just putting your opponent under pressure. Gary doing exactly what he needed to do and making Nigel make the unforced error. But Gary's going to be hurting now. He spent 4 laps behind this duo or trio of drivers with Iceman included there, and he needed to be 5 or 6 seconds down the road to make this strategy of soft tyres work. And now Nigel is probably going to have the edge on Gary in grip. We'll have to see what happens with Gary. Now he's got a bit of clear air though. Sarah looking very good in P3. Iceman, as you said earlier on, had that snap of oversteer and yet managed to come back at Sarah into turn 5. So good driving from those pair. Good little close quarter driving. And Druid just sitting there nice and calmly in P5. It looks like these 5 making a break from the rest of the drivers. At Sparky will apparently be under investigation from the stewards for an incident with Bertie. We have to wait and see the outcome of that. That's why Bertie is out the back and now half a lap behind everyone else. But these 5 drivers out the front, all in the same shot, with really good close quarter racing so far, Matt. Anyone that you're thinking, oh, it's going to be your early call for victory or podium?
Well, I would like to say Nigel, of course. He did win the sprint race, as both of them actually, both Gary and Nigel have a 5-10 penalty again. I'd say probably turn 9 is catching all those drivers out, just pushing to the maximum. And of course, you can push track limits to maximum, but you're going to find quite an issue when the stewards start giving you these track limit penalties. But, yeah, no, I'd say Nigel has very good pace right now. Of course, Gary has good pace as well, but you have to remember, he is on those soft tyres, as we mentioned at the start of this race. He's the only driver, except for Degen Cypher, who is not on the mediums. Degen Cypher is on the hard tyres in that Lamborghini, or did start on those hard tyres. But apart from that, I'd say, yeah, Nigel definitely looking strong. I have to say, Sarah looking quite strong in the Lamborghini right now. Sparky at the back of the pack there. You saw the gravel get kicked up when we cut to the camera. Sparky getting all sideways out of the final corner, going nearly all wheels in the gravel, but managing to get that back on track. That was a very, very scary moment, and luckily kept it out of the wall and kept him out of spinning round and got back on track. But yeah, I'd say Nigel and Sarah looking in a good position here. Gary, of course, as well, but with that tyre advantage, I don't know if that's deceiving us a small bit or not. Iceman's got good pace as well. And just to go back to what you mentioned about Sparky, quite interested to to listen to what you said about Sparky with the under investigation, because from what I saw with Bertie spun by himself, so maybe there was something else happened earlier on the lap that was a bit of contact that caused him a bit of damage. But from what I saw, Bertie's incident was all by himself. But we'll have to see after the race. I'm sure the stewards will have more camera angles than us and see all the telemetry, see if there was anything else going on there. Is Nigel and Gary up at the front now are going to serve their 5-10 penalties, and that means Sarah is going to be in competition here for P2 from Nigel.
Yeah, and it does look like a little bit of contact between the two. They're just about going to get away with it. Sarah is going to be steaming up the inside. I don't know if Nigel was in the right place when serving his penalty or not there. Again, maybe one for the stewards. We'll have to wait and see post-race. But at the moment, we do have that Gary, he served his penalty. He's picked up another one. Maybe that is turn 9 yet again. Sarah up to P2, looking like she wants a view of the lead in this one. But I have to say, these drivers up front are doing very well. No major hits or anything like that, just a little bit of paint swap here and there. I think at the moment we're just going to have to see the drivers settle down a little bit and stop picking up time penalties, because that is an absolute killer around here. Fortunately, it's in a place where it's not a big time loss, but multiple little ones do add up across the race. And you see Iceman pushing his luck a little bit with those rear tyres, but that Genesis does have a habit of shredding the front tyres and keeping the rear tyres a little bit loose on the back. It's kind of an interesting setup with that car, but Iceman making it work and looking good while he's doing it. However, we're just seeing at the back, I was just keeping an eye on Murph. He was going for a move, challenging Cypher, and well, it's a whole gaggle of cars between Cypher down to Murph, and we're just seeing them swap places every so often. All those drivers having a good little battle by themselves. Now we get to see Gary spending another penalty, and Sarah's going to be looking at maybe going up to P1, taking the lead of the race, but I don't think Gary's going to be too far from his first pit stop. Maybe 1 or 2 more laps.
Yeah, I'd say Gary's just struggling with that front left right now. I'd say going into that corner, it might be different conditions every lap just because of the tyre wear, which is what might be causing him to get all those penalties. They're side by side now as they head into this left-hander turn 10 as Sarah manages to creep around the outside as Gary's having a bit of oversteer there on corner exit, managing to keep a hold of it, but that's going to hold up Nigel and let Sarah power away in front. Nigel's going to try down the inside now into turn 12. That's going to be a bit ambitious.
Don't pass there, but no one told Nigel that.
Yeah, Gary's going to pull into the pit lane now anyways, so Nigel would have gotten past either way, but that did hold up the 458 quite a lot, and you can see there is a gap now between Sarah and Nigel. So Sarah is out front leading now, followed by Nigel, followed by Iceman and Druid there in P4. Gary making that pit stop, which promotes Sparky into P5 as Nigel under pressure from Iceman, and Iceman's made a move on Nigel here. Caught napping again, the Genesis driver steamrolls down the inside and gets past the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, good bit of racing from those gents. You do see these guys who were side by side for most of the sprint race as well, so it's all working out rather nicely for the drivers that are managing to extract the pace from their cars. But the one having a reasonably quiet race, not going for any do-or-die manoeuvres, Sarah, is quietly just getting on with it in P1 at the moment. Made less, I would say, unforced errors picking up those time penalties than anyone around, and really making it work. So hopefully this is the last one we see from Iceman, and then Druid picking up one. Well, no, not picking up one this lap, but he is, I think, suffering more with tyre wear compared to a lot of the drivers in front of him, so I expect Druid to perhaps go for hard tyres for the next stint, with Sparky and that McLaren ever present in P5. But we have seen Gary fall right to the back into P10, right behind Murph, but he's gone for a set of medium tyres and only a little top up of fuel, so he's going to be rapid for the next few laps. So we'll have to wait and see what happens when it all shakes out, but maybe an extra stop on the cards for Gary in this one, that GTR being a little bit tougher on those front lefts.
I think Sarah leading up at the front just shows how important consistency is at this track. Obviously, as I mentioned, it is possible to overtake, but it isn't the easiest track on the calendar to be overtaking at. It just shows Sarah has kept herself out of the way of penalties and has been doing quite a nice job conserving those tyres, not far off the conservation of Nigel, who I think Nigel is probably the best in this top 5 when it comes to tyre wear, which is surprising because this is the Ferrari and it does wear the rears out a lot more, but it does look like Nigel and Sarah are nearly matching. Sarah with a bit more front left tyre wear, but you can see her now, Nigel, trying to get up to the back of that Lamborghini, but nothing coming of it as of right now. Nigel just slotting in behind the rear wing. We look further back now, you can see there is a kind of a three-way battle here between Gary, Murph and Smurf. It looks like Gary has gotten past Murph in the Supra, but will now be trying to get past this Ford GT. New tyres on that GTR, new mediums versus 9-lap-old mediums on the Ford GT, and Gary's going to make very nice work of that move and get up into P8. Be now chasing down Cypher in front, who is on those hard tyres as I mentioned earlier, following Damo, who is on hard tyres. I made a mistake earlier. Damo also is running the hard tyres in this race and is going to be serving a 5-10 penalty here in a second, currently in P6.
Nigel up to P1, Sarah dipping a wheel into the gravel and dropping a place. But I have to say, it's a good drive from the pair of these drivers at the moment. And one thing I'm keeping an eye on now, because we're getting to that point, are fuel levels. It looks like Nigel is being very good on his fuel. That was a little bit of a hole in his repertoire last season. It looks like he has rectified that. Sarah on half a tank and Iceman just over half a tank as well. With Druid, looks like he's got probably the worst amount of fuel at the top 5 at the moment, but with Sparky carrying that half-second penalty. So we're at that point of the race. We are starting to think Well, it looks like it's settling down now, with the exception of probably Gary steaming through the midfield with those fresh tyres. And we are now on the 10th lap, nearly a third the way in. A lot of the drivers are going to be starting to want to get to that first pit stop. I'm thinking a 2-stop race for most of these drivers, but an undercut here is a real possibility. Once those tyres start to go off, you really do lose a lot of pace. It's not worth just circulating around trying to stretch out to a 2-stop if you can't make it. So if you need to abort or go to a 3-stop, you do it earlier rather than later around here. But also on the catch, that pit lane is rather long, as we all know, Mac. But that's the trick around here, isn't it? Strategy versus raw speed. But the top 3 drivers at the moment running line astern down the back straight.
Yeah, of course, another thing we know about that pit lane is it's had a few crashes into the pit wall before, let's just say. So we have to be watching out. Make sure, hopefully, nobody hits it this season. But we had a few issues with it previous seasons. Hopefully, nobody makes a mistake. But yes, no, it is, especially on worn tires. I've done it before. Well, I don't think that's saying anything. I wouldn't be surprised if I did that in a race. But basically, this pit lane, yeah, very long. It is a quite long pit stop time compared to other tracks. So drivers will be keeping that in mind. And they're going to want to extend the stint as long as they can. It's looking like it'll probably be tires for most before fuel, just because of the fact that most people's tires are gone past halfway wear on at least one of the tires, compared to fuel, which is hovering around the halfway mark. So I'd say it probably will be tires first that force people in, because as we know, the more worn those tires get, the harder it is to drive, and the more wear that starts accumulating. As we see now, Gary down this back straight, fighting with Cypher, kicked up a bit of gravel there a second ago, but Gary's been looking to go on the inside line of the Lamborghini drivers. It looks like somebody's in the pits. I believe it's Druid in the Lexus coming into pit now, as Gary goes down the inside. Nice late braking maneuver from the GTR driver, and he's up in a P6 already, and he's going to be chasing down Damo. And once Damo's clear, he's back up to this top 4 who are still running.
Yeah, I don't think Gary actually took on any fuel in his first pit stop, so he's just literally gone for a tyre stop and gone again. And it was Druid that coming into the pits, so only making those medium tyres last 11 laps, but he can still do a double medium hard tyre stint here. We'll see what he gets on and does. But we do see Gary working his way through that midfield on the back of Damo, who also has a half-second penalty. Those penalties being a bit of a killer around here and making passes rather easy. But will Gary want to wait to that penalty line? I don't think so. Will he go down the inside? Okay, thinking better of it this time, but he's definitely going to have the acceleration out of the corner. And then Damo moves off to the side, spends his penalty, and Gary up to P5. He's going to be gaining time on the top 4 or 5 drivers. Well, Gary now up to P5 rather. And you see Cypher with a devilishly late dive there, catching Damo completely by surprise. I don't know if there was contact in there or not, but D-Gent right up to P6 following Gary through. And Sparky in the pits with big damage. I don't know if he... Oh, that's on the front left, Matt. Maybe he's had a collision with the pit wall. Maybe it's happened.
He has. Sparky crashing into the pit wall on pit entrance. It's happened already. It's lap 11. So Sparky has had a collision with the pit entrance. Luckily, he was able to get it out. It was just the corner, so he managed to get it out of the pit wall fairly quickly. But that is going to be extra time on that pit stop, which because obviously we know here the worst thing that happens is the game will reset you to the track if you spend too long in the pit entrance. So luckily that didn't happen, because if that happened, he would have had to do 2 laps around with that damage, as Damo is also coming into the pit lane, not hitting the pit wall, off of those hard tires, which is early. He was on the hard tires at the start of the race, maybe feeling like the hards just aren't working on that Porsche and wanting to get off him as soon as possible, as Druid now making a move on Bertie down the outside on turn 1 and managing to get that move done. The Lexus driver up into P8.
Now we do have Sarah, who's just served a penalty in P2, just about held off Iceman. We've got these front 2 of the front 3 runners now are going to be starting to be gasping for those new tyres. Nigel looks like he's managing the situation better, but that rear left, I'm not a fan of the rear tyres going off, but that looks like his worst tyre at the moment. The others are going to be starting to struggle going around these long right-handers. It does look like Sarah's just about got the grip left in that front front left, so she's going to be okay through the high speed, but it looks like Iceman is doing his best to stay with her. These three still trying to make a break for it, but Gary on those fresh tyres without taking on fuel, he's going to be effectively net lead of this race at the moment. However, it's all going to start shaking out properly after the second stop, I feel. So Mac, at the moment, it's all up in the air at the moment. I don't really know where to look in terms of who's going to win this race. I think Nigel's in with a great shout of it, but I think it's all going to depend on what happens with Gary in this one.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some alternate strategies appearing in the field, and just to draw your attention as well, Druid, on those hard tires, he's having a bit of a hard time trying to pull away from Bertie. Bertie's on old mediums, and I know Druid is ahead, but he is not having the easiest time trying to pull away from the 650S driver. Also at the back in 10th and 11th, Sparky and Damo, who came out of the pit lane practically alongside each other because Sparky hit that pit wall. Damo is really putting some pressure on the McLaren driver, and both of them came out on the hard tires again. Even though Damo already did his hard stint, he decided to go on the hards again as Smurf pulls into the pit lane now in the Ford GT to get rid of those mediums and go on to a fresh set of boots. And as we look now down the main straight, Druid and Bertie were fighting briefly until Bertie pulled back into line and decided to not challenge driver. Although into turn 3 now, Bertie's trying to go up the inside. He kicks up a bit of grass, and Druid's going to get the outside line exit.
Yeah, Bertie making a big fight in this one. He's doing really well. One thing I just want to say, Mac, very, very quickly, we're just looking at Smurf coming out of the pits. He was on in that 4 GT with the medium tyres. He managed it all the way up to lap 13 and still had loads of tyre life left in that 4 GT. So he looks like now going over to the hards might go a very long way into this race. So good luck to him, but he's very close to having Nigel come up on the back of him in P1. And Sarah still running P2. Iceman picking up another half-second penalty P3 with Gary crossing the line, starting his 14th lap now. Looks like he's going to be inheriting the lead. But we're seeing some good racing here, Matt. Like you say, Bertie on those older medium tyres, but with less fuel, fighting Druid all tooth and nail. But Druid on those hard tyres, perhaps waiting for them to come up to temperature in that Lexus.
Yeah, and just to go back to our little battle we had with Sparky and Damo, it does look like Sparky's managed to pull away from the nice green and black Porsche lovely livery on that car, as it looks like Iceman's actually getting a penalty here somewhere. I want to guess turn 9, but I don't want to jump to conclusions considering how many penalties we've had at that corner. But that's going to hurt his challenge in trying to catch up to Sarah. You can see that front left has seen better days on a lot of the cars now that are after staying out. Nigel somehow has kept that front left quite alive compared to some of the drivers behind him, and that will definitely help in his extension of this stint, and we could see that come into play later on in this race. If we can try pull off a one stop, I mean, it's 14 out of 35 laps. You need 20 more laps, although I'm going to speak too soon because Nigel is now pulling into the pit lane. The 458 driver said that's enough on the medium tires and is going to come in for pit stop. The rest of the drivers look like they're staying out as of right now, as Gary's got a 5-10 penalty also.
That's interesting, Mac. Nigel choosing to pit first. Maybe he sees the delta time of which the fresher tyres are capable of doing, being the factor that he wants to follow. But we're going to see Nigel pull into the pits now in that gorgeous livery, and probably, well, what tyres is he going to go for, do you reckon? I reckon another set of mediums, and then he'll figure out what he's going to do to the end. But Gary getting past up to P3, at least momentarily, but Nigel taking on a lot of fuel, which is why he's going to drop down back through the field. I am still surprised to see Nigel in first before Sarah and Iceman, but Iceman now struggling. He has to come in this lap. He's going to be losing far too much time. He's now almost 3 seconds a lap slower than what he was doing just 6 or 7 laps ago.
Yeah, absolutely, as Murph is also coming into the pit lane to get rid of those medium tyres. 18% fuel in the Supra as he pulls into his pit box. We'll have to see what tyres he will go on to. Of course, the later pit stoppers will be able to see like how other drivers are doing, which is why I'm so surprised that Nigel's come in, because if he had the chance to pit later, and if he did, he would have been able to see perhaps Sarah, Iceman, and see how they're doing on a hard or medium, a new medium set of tires, and be able to make a decision then. But it does look like both of the top two will be coming to the pits this lap. I would be very surprised if they would stay out and try to extend. You can see Sarah is on the right hand side of the track as we come around into this final corner. Yes, Sarah's going to be pitting, and Iceman, I assume, also following behind her, as both pull into the pit lane now. As we see, Gary will now inherit the lead of this race once he comes around the final corner, and will be the net race leader as he is currently one stop as everyone else. But when he does, he will have to come in earlier than other people. So once he does come in, he probably won't be leading anymore. No, he's a 5-10 penalty.
Yep, 5-10 penalty for running wide in the final corner. He had a 1-second penalty in that one as well. So he's picking up a lot of time penalties, which is really starting to hurt his race cumulatively. We are now seeing Gary, like you say, take the lead of the race. Degen Cypher in his first main series race go up to P2 on those hard tyres. He's making this first stint really work for him, but we do have Nigel on 3/4 of a tank with medium tyres, going to be looking very, very racy, coming down the pit straight as well. Now it's going to be battle of the Huracan Lamborghini mechanics against the Genesis mechanics. We do see Sarah short filling just a little bit, with Iceman taking on more fuel, but Iceman going to the hard tyres, Sarah to the medium. So very split strategy there. Bertie up to P5, although temporarily holding on to the back of Druid. Druid not being able to get away from that McLaren despite the fresher tyres. It just looks like Bertie just has a way about him. Shame about that lap 2 incident they had earlier on. Obviously be running potentially a bit higher, but you make of it what you can sometimes, Matt, don't you? But at the moment, Gary serving that half-second penalty. Degen Cypher running P2. You can see Nigel just in the background coming into shot. I don't really know who's winning this race at the moment. It's we're about halfway through. Nigel's in with a really good shot, but he has definitely short-fielded that car. So we're gonna. I just don't know where this is going to go at the moment. I guess we have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by Nigel having not much fuel, because of course they managed to get, what, 14, 15 laps on the medium. So if you were to just do that again, you'd only have 5 laps left at the end of the race. But nobody, of course, Nigel would have to do the mandatory, like, change tyres. So you need to use 2 tyres, as everyone knows, 2 different sets of tyres. So it's to be hard medium, medium soft, hard soft, whatever. So Nigel took on another set of mediums. So you'd assume Nigel wouldn't do just 5 laps on the hards. He'd probably come in maybe like 10 laps to go or 12 laps to go. He wouldn't be doing very long stint on the mediums, because the time that you could be gaining on a new hard would like exceed that of an old medium. So I'd say he'll be coming in, maybe, if I had to predict, 27, 26, around that area. He'd come in for hard tires, or maybe earlier. He's got an absolute snap of oversteer there, just as we were talking about him on the AstroTurf. That AstroTurf is very slippy. People have spun on it before, including myself, that's why I know. But I've gone onto the AstroTurf before on the Lexus, and it is not a fun ride. You go straight in that inside wall. So very good job, Nigel, to hold that car and manage to keep it pointing straight, as it looks like Smurf is spun round.
Yeah, we definitely had Smurf. I think we have now lost Smurf as well. Yeah, having a moment round, I think it was somewhere around turn 8 or so, and nearly collecting the leader on that one. But we've now lost Smurf from this race. Wow, and then like you say, Matt, coming around that turn 3, get on that AstroTurf, and it's a one-way ticket to the barrier, as we all know. But we now see Degen Cypher still running in P2, closely followed by Nigel, who is getting much closer with those fresh tyres. It won't be long before we see Cypher into the pits. Perhaps this lap, maybe another one. But still getting that Huracan around the track nicely at this moment. Will he come in? Either way, he's going to have Nigel breathing down his neck, who's looking rapid fast, taking the fastest lap of the race at the moment as well. On the previous lap, he has dropped a little bit of time compared to the previous effort due to that big slide through turn 3, but up to P2 potentially for Nigel on the brakes, down to turn 1, makes it happen. That much fresher tyres doing the job. We do have Cypher down to P3, Druid up to P4, who pitted earliest out of the lot of the front runners followed by Sarah getting past Bertie, who is now running on the last embers of those tyres, but Bertie obviously pitting on lap 2, already getting his first stop out of the way, and with Iceman not falling back, but he has definitely lost a bit of time with that undercut from Druid. It's like I was saying earlier on, it is definitely, the undercut is powerful around here, but you then have to go much longer on your tyres, so it's a catch-22, Mac. I mean, do you go for those nice, soft, sticky tyres earlier on and suffer it later, or do you play it sensible? I guess we have to wait and see how it all pans out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm just so intrigued to see, like, what the finishing order of this race is, because, like, the two drivers that were right next to each other fighting, like, pretty much at the start of the race, Sarah and Iceman, have went for, like, completely different tires. They're medium and hards right now, the two of them. Sarah with the mediums, Iceman with the hards. And it's like, even though they were literally right next to each other on the track and they pitted the same lap, they're both gone for completely different strategies. And, like, they're both going to be pitting at different times. So, like, I don't think anyone here, like, has went for, like, the exact same strategy. Everyone's pitted on different laps. Everybody's pitted for different tires. Everyone's started on, well, not everyone's started on different tires, but, like, different people, like, for example, Gary pitted early from the mediums, but then Nigel went long on the mediums. It's like, it's going to be so interesting to see who ends up reaping the benefits from this, as Cypher comes into the pits with barely any fuel left to get off of those hard tires he's been on since the start of this race. Unlike Damo, who pitted early off the hard tires.
Ooh, Druid going very narrow coming out of the final corner, going very defensive against Sarah, as we do see, as you say, Cypher coming into the pits, taking his Mando stop. Sarah being held off by Druid into turn 1, and there we go, DJ and Cypher getting his new tyres, but it looks like Druid is doing a bit of a defensive masterclass in this one. And like you say, Mac, no two drivers, it does appear, that have gone for the same strategy, so it is an interesting one. And it's all going to have to come to a head at lap 35, which we're going to figure out what everyone's doing. But Druid just sitting on the apex, making life difficult for Sarah. It's going to be losing her time, bringing, maybe not Bertie with that tyre, but bringing Iceman, okay, he's got another half-second penalty, but bringing Iceman back into the battle for this P2 or 3, whatever's going to be on offer for these ladies and gents. But Druid at the moment, driving beautifully, not moving too many times in the braking zone, doing exactly what he's allowed to do, but with those much harder and older tyres, driving beautifully, holding off Sarah, who wants that P3.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Druid's exemplary defense in the sprint race against Nigel, and he's enacting the exact same against Sarah here, taking them inside lines for all the corners. You can see right in the middle of the track, positioning that car exactly where Sarah doesn't want it to be, and making the most out of this tire differential, and just holding Sarah up as long as he can, just to keep that P3, so that it will hurt Sarah later in the race, and of course benefit him. We head now into turn 13 and soon turn 14 to round off lap 19. Sarah really pushing it into that final corner. Might go a bit wide, actually. Manages to keep it off the gravel, but you can see here it did hurt her exit going so wide on that final corner, and she'll be trying to pick up the slipstream now from that Lexus to try and make another move on the next lap as Bertie comes into the pits for his second stop of the race.
Yeah, Bertie in for that pit stop. But I have noticed where Druid is placing his car, he's placing in the exact place where Sarah is getting a run on him and then just blocking off the speed difference between the pair of cars. So it either forces her to lift off or go the long way round, like he's doing into turn 4 now. So what Sarah needs to do is cut back under, which she's trying to do, using that grip from the fresher medium tyres, gets it done beautifully. That was a very smart move there from Sarah. But Druid coming back late on the brakes. He can't leave the door open. He will go for it. Sarah getting a little bit squiggly coming out of the corner, but enough grip in those medium tyres to just pull away. What a good bit of action from these two. The Iceman, he looks like he's going to be trying to zero in behind the pair of them. One driver we sort of dropped a little bit is Sparky, but running a very solid P6 at the moment. But with Damo in close proximity in P7. It looks like Gary has taken his second pit stop. 1% of fuel, so we know he can one stop it on fuel, but not on tyres. But Gary has gone into the pits, taken his second stop. Will he go for a different set of tyres? but Nigel has taken the lead. So let's keep an eye on what set of tyres Gary goes to. You can only really go for another set of mediums, so you won't want to go back onto those soft tyres, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if he can get the mediums to the end of the race, of course. Just want to point out as well, Nigel was catching Gary at a rate of knots over the last few laps, lighting up the timing screen, setting a fastest lap on lap 16, and was catching Gary by almost 1 or 2 seconds a lap. So Gary definitely had to come in off those mediums, and I'm sure he will go on to another set of mediums. He could go on to hards if he was worried about the tyre wear, but as we've seen earlier in the race, Nigel was able to make do with the mediums for 14 laps and still had a good bit of life left in him. So if he takes care of him, he should be fine. He's coming out of the pits now, just behind Damo in that Porsche, a few seconds up the road, and I'm sure he will be trying to make his way through the field soon enough, and we'll see if he encounters any traffic. Of course, there is going to be a good bit of traffic to get through, but we'll see if he gets held up at all. I'd say he might have a bit of a hard time once he starts to get closer to Iceman and Druid, of course, with Druid having that very good defense that has held up Sarah and Nigel throughout this event.
Quite right, and Gary has gone to the medium tyres again. Do you know how many laps he did on his set of mediums before, Mac?
That is a good question. I'd say not enough.
Yeah, I think he might be in for a splash and dash of fuel and or tyres at the end, maybe a set of soft tyres. So it looks like Gary is going to be stretching his tyres out, either to make those mediums make the end or for an extra stop at the end. We'll have to keep an eye on that one, but he's going to be rapid, and this is a perfect example of the undercut versus overcut. You see Gary, he put himself into a place where he was leading the race by just going for those fresh tyres early on, but he's now paid the penalty with Nigel, like you say, setting those fastest laps behind him on the overcut. So, well, it's all getting to that point where Nigel is stretching his advantage a little bit over Sarah. He's now a good couple of corners ahead. Sarah dropping a lot of time thanks to that robust defense of Druid, but we can see Iceman just creeping up in the background so long as he doesn't get any more of those time penalties. And we are hearing Gary has had a reset on track somewhere as well. So he's had a trip through the gravel or something somewhere, and he's dropped a lot of time to Damo.
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to find where that was there. I didn't personally see it. Oh, yes, it was. Yes, that's correct. It was into turn 12. It wasn't a trip into the gravel. It was very strange mechanic with GT7 where in that turn, it's of course the one after turn 10, that little finicky last sector, where if you cross one of the access roads at a very specific angle, it thinks you're reversing on the track and it actually resets you back onto the track. Really weird. I've never seen it before in a league race. I've seen it before in open lobbies, but that's interesting because you usually don't spin at that angle, like that very specific way. But of course, you know, we're making things happen here, okay? You know, there's a first time for everything. So interesting to see that happen, Gary, and that did drop him time. Now it wasn't as much as going for a trip into the gravel, let's say, but it did make his car stationary on the track, which is a bit of an issue. So I'd say about 6-7 seconds drops there from Damo, and he's going to need to regain that time now on those fresh tyres. It's going to hurt his challenge for the lead later on in this race.
Yeah, those 6 or 7 seconds are going to be crucial when it comes to the battle for the podium. I think he's going to have to possibly stop one more time the leader, Nigel, depending on how his tyre strategy pans out. But just dropping time, and you've got drivers who are setting fastest laps out front. We know Gary is very capable. He's won multiple blue races before, multiple podiums at very least. So he's just a bit unlucky. Like you say, it's not something we've seen before, but it doesn't mean it won't happen in GT7. We do see Damo pitting for, I believe, the second time. He hasn't fulfilled his 2 tyre mandatory requirement as of yet, so I imagine he will be thinking perhaps a set of medium tyres, but he doesn't seem to be making those hard tyres last all that long. Although saying that, he's made the hard tyres last long, but he didn't really refuel in the last pit stop, so he's had to come in a little bit early. Maybe a little bit of hole in his strategic efforts in this one, but he'll learn for the rest of the season. Sorry, Matt. It's quieting down a bit now. We've got a lot of the strategy just slowly playing out. We've got Druid being caught by Iceman on those much fresher hard tyres, but with Druid, I think he's going to be in the next 2 to 3 laps, as he's now lapping 2.5 seconds, if not. Well, Nigel was just at a 42.9 somewhere in there, so it off the ultimate pace about 4 seconds off the pace, but off race pace about 2 or 3 seconds, with Iceman catching at least a second and a half a lap. So I think that'll be the next move that we're about to see.
Yeah, looks like Gary now has been released, now that Damo's pitted. Not that Gary was being held up by Damo just because of the time difference, but it's one less person for him to overtake on his quest for victory that has been hampered by that little reset to track. As we look now through the field, it's getting a bit quieter. Everyone's focusing on their own race. We've got a few gaps within the field. I'd say closest battle right now might be Druid and Iceman, which that gap is slowly closing every lap, and potentially Damo and sorry, not Damo and Bertie. I forgot about laps cars. So yeah, I'd say Druid and Iceman probably closest battle on track right now.
Well, we are at that point where the drivers are going to be looking for their final stop. We know Sarah still has to fulfill her 2-tyre mandatory requirement, and she's going to be, I think, in the area of maybe even going to soft tyres at the end. Double, medium, soft. It was not something I was expecting to see, but we do know the Ferrari of the fronts around here is pretty good. The Huracan is pretty useful on its tyres as well, if not slightly younger than the Ferrari's tyres. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what drivers do what. I think Nigel might have made a mild error earlier on, pitting so early, like we said. It depends on what tyres he's going to go for. Play it conservative, go for hard tyres soon, or stretch it out and go to soft tyres, be rapid at the end. But like you say, Iceman zeroing in on the Druid. So a couple of seconds between them now. It's only going to be a lap or so before Druid is under real pressure again. We know how good he is defensively in that Lexus. That said, will he pit this lap or next one? I've got a feeling one more lap, at least one more lap in him. But he's now going to be towing Iceman down the main straight, as we have seen a lot of action down this main straight over the years across the various Formula, especially in the Formula 1. If you know, you know. Senna Mansell in 91. But we're not thinking about that. We're thinking about 2025 F1 RST here. So, Mac, at the moment, let's hear a top 3 prediction from you. Let's hear it.
Not sure what you mean in the last few years. I don't know. I don't think 97 was a few years ago. But top 3 predictions. I'd say Nigel, Iceman, and Sarah. I think that order, I think that could be potential result order, but I could be completely wrong, because I can't lie. All these strategies, all these different strategies, they could be like, it could be a completely different order. Like, it's anyone's game here, anyone's play to win. You could. I think anyone in the top 6 could potentially win this or get a podium.
I'm going to agree with you on that top 3, and I said 91, by the way. But I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you. Nigel looks like he is just in the zone at the moment, where he's just about got the fuel, the tyre wear, and the speed just to keep ahead of Sarah and Iceman at this point. But Druid looks like, I think he's going to fade a little bit in the final stint, unless he can really find some pace on some medium tyres, which he'll now be in the zone to go to. But Iceman looking very good, because he's still got half a tank of fuel. He's only going to need a little splash of fuel to get to the end, and it's a very, very quick tyre stop. And Sarah's going to need a little bit more fuel, but she's still to go to a different set of tyres, so it depends on what she goes to. Druid coming into the pits for his second and hopefully final stop. Sparky in P5, probably 6 or 7 seconds down on where he could have been, so I think he could have been on the back of Iceman if it wasn't for that little pit entry error early on. It so easily happens around here, like you said, Mac. But I think now the race is on, particularly for P2.
I'd just like to give a bit of an update on one of our potential podium contenders. I did say top 6, but that might not be the case anymore, because Gary has front end damage on his car. Lap 24, on turn 5. He got onto the gravel, and unfortunately, the car wasn't happy with that, and he went straight headfirst into the barrier. So Gary, with that front end damage, and he keeps getting penalties for exceeding track limits on turn 9 and turn 14. I'm not sure how feasible this top 3 battle might be now for the GTR driver.
Yeah, life has been made much more difficult with that front end damage. It's going to slow him down the straight, and make the turn in of that GTR a little bit more difficult. And for those who are on the wheel, just really makes you want to turn that wheel just a little bit harder to get that turn in. As he runs a little bit wide coming out of turn 5, it's just going to make life very difficult for him. I'd almost recommend to him at this point, consider just pitting now for a set of medium tyres, repair the damage and go again, and consolidate. Hopefully P5, because the driver's behind him. Murph is still going to have to pit. Cypher's probably going to go to the end, I would imagine, and so is Bertie. So it's going to be tricky for Gary. He's either going to have to just stick it out there and hope the drivers behind him don't catch him, or rapidly change his strategy.
We look up to the front now. Nigel currently leading this race. Not pitting yet, of course. Nigel has only run 2 medium tyres as of this race, so he will have to make a stop onto a softer or a harder compound. Potentially softs now, I'd say, for the 458 driver, as we get now down to the last 7 or 8 laps of this race. As everything is settling down now, everyone's just on their own strategy, although I'd like to draw your attention to this battle between Murph, Gary and Sparky starting to develop here, I'd say, in this final sector, as right now nothing happening between these drivers, but you can see Bertie is starting to close up to the back of the Lamborghini driver. As you see, he is going to try and make a move on the inside into turn 1, and he's going to get the move done up into P7.
Nice simple move down the inside, made it work nicely, Bertie. Recovering from that lap 2 incident, but DJ and Cypher still, I think, enjoying a good race and his debut here tonight. Murph looks like his tyres are about shot, so he'll be in for his final stop shortly. So that will release Bertie and DJ up into P6 and 7 respectively. Murph, again, he was recovering after a spin earlier on, and he has done rather well to get to where he is as well, but showing his pace as he always does.
We are still watching the rest of the drivers to see when they're going to pit. They're going to pit onto these soft tires more than likely, and that will be when Gary and Bertie specifically, and Cypher as well, would be released, because they're all on this kind of later strategy where they're going to not pit later on in the race. As you see, up at the front there, things are getting a bit spicy between 6th, 7th, and 8th position.
DJ almost got really acquainted with Bertie's diffuser there.
Yeah. We're going to be heading into turn 14 now. It looks like Murph's pulling into the pit lane, I think, in the Supra. Yes, he is. He's pulling into the pits. He's got barely any fuel left in that car, so that is probably a very wise decision. And we'll be putting on them soft tires, as that leaves Bertie 6th and Cypher in 7th position, with Druid following behind, also on some fresh medium tires. So this could get interesting at the end if the Lexus driver can catch up to them.
Yeah, I just spotted that the same time you did. It's it's now race on with Druid. Unfortunately falling back through strategy on this one, but he still has a really big shot at P6 if Bertie starts to struggle with tyres in the last 7 laps, as well as Gary with that damage out front. But Nigel pitting from P1 out front. Sarah will, I believe, take the lead, at least temporarily. And there comes Nigel into the pits, and he has to now choose his tyres to go to the end. So what are you thinking, Max? Soft tyres?
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be soft. I'd say, yeah, you might be a bit silly if you go onto the hard tyres with this much of the race left to go. As Nigel pulls out of the pit lane now, it is the soft tyres for the Ferrari driver, and he's coming out in P2 now. And I'm sure there will be some following suit, as yes, there is Sparky in the 650S is coming into the pits as well off the hards, with not a lot of fuel left in that car either.
Yeah, you can just see the grip from Iceman. You can see Nigel's pure grip that he's got there. He's going to be incredibly rapid. We've got one driver off.
Cypher, yes, Cypher is freewheeling right now out of the that hairpin. I don't know if there's been a issue or a failure on that car, or of some sorts. It might be a throttle issue or a brake issue. I'm not sure because it doesn't look like. Well, it looks like he's gotten throttle back, but weird problem there. It might be a wheel disconnect or something because he was just freewheeling in the little runoff area or like the alternate layout for the F1. So I'm not really sure what was happening there. Maybe some in-car trouble for him as Sparky now comes out of the pits in P7 in the 650S.
Well, we know it happened because it happened to Mercedes in the red lobby. So it can happen no matter who you are or where you are. And it looks like Sarah's headlights are coming on. It looks like the track is getting a bit darker, telling us it is heading towards late evening. Sarah pulls into the pits for her final stop. That has got to be soft tyres from there, same as Nigel. So she and Nigel are going to be very rapid towards the end. A quick splash and dash for the pair of them. Iceman, will he follow Sarah in? No. Could Iceman be going for a one stop? I've only just twigged.
Yeah, took more fuel than Sarah. And of course, has been on the mediums already. So yeah, I mean, it's completely viable. He's not breaking any rules by having the hards on to the end of the race. So yeah, it looks like Iceman's going to inherit P2 here. And Sarah, I don't know if Sarah will be able to close this gap by the end of the race. She's just pulling out of the pit lane right now with 37% fuel and mediums. It's going to be pretty hard for Sarah to catch up. Mate. Yeah, soft tires, but at the same time, she took less fuel earlier in the stint than Iceman did, because Iceman still has loads of fuel left in that car. In fact, he nearly has as much as Nigel up at the front, and Nigel's pitted, like, so.
So yeah, Iceman,
I think
he's on a one stop. He's got to be.
Yeah, exactly. That Genesis holding up very well over this race.
That is incredible racing. I don't think anyone really called a one-stop around Barcelona, but hard tyres and mediums, he's making it work. And in of all cars, the Genesis. So well done to Iceman there. Definitely something we didn't expect to see, but I love to see it. Now, I think the question for us is, what is the raw pace? Just having a look at to see what Nigel can do on his soft tyres out front when he crosses the line. If Sarah can get anywhere near that within a second of that, then we just have to take that time off her lap compared to Iceman and give us a rough delta or ETA if she may catch him and go from there. It made more sense in my head than what I said there, I feel. But this is going to be a race to the flag between Sarah and Iceman for that P2. It looks like Gary is solidly in P4 now. Bertie P5. Druid has got up to P6 with their pit stops, and it's going to be chasing down Bertie. And Sparky on those soft tyres in the Mclaren, also in P7. So we've got a couple of little battles going on here. Sparky versus Druid, and Bertie and Iceman versus Sarah. And Nigel did 41.8. Oh, that's rapid, man.
That's very quick. That Ferrari is really setting the pace around this track with Nigel as the driver. He's doing a very good job with those soft tires. But I was about to say, there was a battle between, I think it was Cypher and Murph. But Murph pulled into the pit lane again, went onto the soft tires. So I don't know what that was about. He was on the mediums before. So I don't know if he forgot that he needed to take 2 sets of tires, because I'm not sure why he would have pitted onto softs. He had enough fuel and he had the tires, or I believe he did. So because he just pitted before as well, because we were just commentating the battle between him, I believe it was Damo and Druid, wasn't it? And then he pulled into the pit lane. So I'm not sure what happened for the super driver there, but he is now down in last, unfortunately. As we look throughout the field now, Sparky's got a 5-10 penalty while he's trying to chase down Druid. Sparky on soft tires, Druid on some more mediums. As Damo's also coming to the pits as well, with hard tires and loads of fuel. Maybe people are trying to... I'm not sure, because it doesn't look like Damo's under threat from anybody. Maybe just trying to take fastest lap here? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure Damo's actually used another set of tyres, a different compound yet.
Yes, you're correct. He hasn't used another set. Yeah, he's used hard for the whole race. So yeah, no, this is going to be a stop onto the soft tyres.
So that explains him at very least. But I have just seen Degen, who's running around with fairly hefty damage on the front right. So he's clearly having more issues with his car wheel or setup, something to that effect. You just see Sparky zooming up to the back of Druid here. Druid on those older medium tyres, Sparky on those much fresher softs, but Sparky's going to have to get that move done very quickly indeed, because these tyres, they turn into Swiss cheese, or if not, well, they shred around there, don't they? Shredded cheese. Let's go with that analogy. But Bertie, he's going to be suffering come the next 4 laps. Even the McLaren is going to suffer with that tyre wear with 3 laps to go. And out front, we're going to have to keep a really big eye on Iceman, who's now in the 1 minute 46s most laps, with Sarah doing a 42.2, so 3.5 seconds at least faster. But again, going to have to use the best of those soft tyres really early on to try and catch him, and hope she has enough left in the tank and on the tyres when she gets there.
Yeah, just to clarify what happened to Degen Cypher, it looks like he had the same thing that happened to, I believe it was Bertie in, was it the start of this race, the sprint race? I don't remember. When he spun, it was the start of this race, wasn't it?
It was,
where
yeah,
he spun off turn 9. He spun, same incident, touched the grass on the inside of the corner, and basically the car just spun straight around and went into the inside wall. So very unfortunate for him, and he's carrying that damage. He's not the only one carrying damage, of course, because Gary got that damage and is still circulating the track. Gary is in the GTR, but it looks like Druid and Sparky, this battle is spicing up between the Lexus and the 650S, going into the final corner and the penultimate corner right now, as it looks like Druid has managed to pull away just a small bit. We'll see if Sparky can get a good exit. Looks like he did. He's going to be in the slipstream. He's going to be in the wheel tracks heading into turn 1. But we know, we've already said it, that Druid quite quick around this track.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, Sparky coming into the final couple of corners now with Druid completely attached to his rear bumper. This is going to be interesting, like you say, down into turn 1. Those soft tyres for Sparky are going to start to be crying in pain already. They're only a few laps old, those tyres, but this is the price to pay for those softs. But here we go. Druid going defensive like we've seen him do many a time, down to the right hand side. Sparky following in his wheel tracks. Will Sparky come to the left? He does. Sparky goes to the outside. Nope, not happening this lap. We have to see how it carries on into the rest of the track. But I'm just going to bring our attention to Sarah, who's now only that short little distance between turn, I think it is 7 and 8, behind Iceman now. So that time is now still coming down by at least 2 or 3 seconds a lap. And we'll just see Druid and Sparky have a little bit of contact potentially around turn 4. Sparky off on the gravel. That is not what Sparky's going to have wanted. That is going to be pausing his charge, but it's still going to potentially be a P6 on the cards there for Sparky, with Bertie sitting there in P5, but he's going to be trying to coast that front left back to the checker flag today. But it looks like Gary is nailed on P4. He's going to make it through. Iceman crosses the line in P2, 2 laps to go. Sarah crosses the line, 2 laps to go. Now that is race on between those two. But it looks like Nigel, he is enjoying the race out front at this point. He is just settled down. He's got the fastest lap. He's got P1. And I think that's basically, apart from the pole position, going to be a near Grand Slam for Nigel this one. He's going to be very happy with the result here today.
Yeah, brilliant performance from Nigel. As just want to point out, like, Iceman's front left is not looking very good, and he's going to be really hoping that tyre does not give way towards the end of this race. And he's of course on low fuel, so he should have enough fuel to make it to the end. I'm more worried about that front left. I know the hards, they don't wear as quick as a soft tyre would if it was at that level, but he's still going to be quite worried, especially through that final sector. A lot of right-handers where that front left's going to be put on a lot of stress. He's going to be wanting to coast his way through there and make sure he doesn't make a mistake and doesn't go off the track. That Genesis, he's going to be holding on to that Genesis for dear life as he goes through some of them corners.
But you can see it. Sarah is catching rapidly, at least 2.5 seconds. Probably a sector at this point. And they are in the same corner now. I don't want to put any money on who this is going to take this win between those two. But Nigel starts his final lap. He's going to be so happy that in fact he's got that gap, he can just back off. But Iceman, he doesn't have that same luxury. He's got the Hawkeye bearing down on him with soft tyres. So this is going to be the race, Mac. This is the race for P2, but it looks like we're going to have going down the field. Gary's going to be solid P4. Bertie P5, just about holding on with those tyres. Druid has picked up a half-second penalty with Sparky chasing him down, but with dead soft tyres. So that's going to be an interesting finish the race. DJ Cypher making his way around still. Damo on softs will probably take P8 with those soft tyres, and Murph in P10. So let's keep an eye on this battle, Mac.
Just to mention, Druid has a 5-10 penalty as well, so Sparky might not be out of this yet, even with that front left. If Druid picks up another penalty potentially on this final corner, or just Sparky manages to hold on to the back of him, it might still be a good finish for him, as we see Iceman and Sarah fighting now into turn 4.
Yeah, they're there already, and then Iceman just has nothing left. He just couldn't hold the speed around that right-hand corner, and Sarah just simply round the outside, making those soft tyres work. A one stop, almost working for Iceman there. That was, do you know, I'm super proud of both of these drivers here. Iceman has made a one stop work where we didn't think it was possible, and Sarah has, although with now a dead front left tyre, made the two-stop work and going on to the soft tyres at the end. But Matt, Nigel is going to take the win here in the feature race as well as the sprint today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a dominant performance from the driver in the 458. He's going to cross the line in P1 with quite the advantage to second place. A brilliant race from him. No faults today at all in the feature and the sprint. So great job. Great patience shown by him. Sarah is going to come home quite a bit ahead of Iceman. We weren't sure if she'd be able to catch up to him with the massive gap. Iceman's tyre just not holding on. She's going to cross the line in P2. A great performance from the Lamborghini driver, and it's going to be Iceman following behind in P3. Damo and Cypher have crossed the line in P8 and P9 to round off an impressive weekend for them. Gary coming home in P4 for what could have been, if it wasn't for that damage and the alternate strategy, but it was a good race from him, coming home in P4 after starting P2. Bertie's going to come home with a quiet race, but still very nice finishing position of P5 with a very, very worn front left, maybe even more than Iceman at this stage. Druid comes on P6, managed to defend off Sparky even with that penalty. As you're right, Midnight, Sparky came home with no front left yet left.
Well, we saw that one potentially happening, but do you know what? I think that is a great way to kick off the Season 5 with the Blue Lobby here tonight. That has been some great driving from all the drivers involved. I mean, just to run down the feature race results there. Nigel P1, Sarah P2, Iceman P3, then Gary, Bertie, Druid, Sparky, Damo, Degen, Murph, Simon, and Smurf. Well, Simon unfortunately didn't get to start in the feature race due to a logout, and yeah, what can I say? It was great to see all the drivers taking part to there today, and we've seen something from everyone in there, be it recovery drive, managing tyres and fuel beautifully, or just raw speed and overtaking. But I have to say, I am extremely proud of all the drivers that have been involved today, and I could think of a lot of superlatives to talk about each and every one. And to top it off, the sprint as well was great action from that one to right to the finish. But I think the biggest smile today is going to be somewhere, it's got to be with Nigel. I think he has been super consistent and made that Ferrari work for him, although I can imagine the Hawkeye being extremely happy as well, and Iceman just showing great improvement from race to race.
Yeah, definitely have to say the overall pace was there with Nigel, but past that, it was very competitive for the rest of the positions. Of course, Nigel did carry it home in P1 in both races, but he didn't have it without a bit of effort. I mean, we saw Druid put up an absolutely insane performance in that sprint, holding up for so many laps until he had that collision with Iceman. And I think if it wasn't for that, it could have been a very different end to the sprint race. And I mean, even in the feature race, there was always battles throughout the field. I mean, we saw that brilliant battle with Sarah and Iceman at the end. But even at the start, we saw a lot of competitiveness. We saw people getting penalties. You saw Gary and Nigel fighting over that win for nearly the entirety of the first stint. And I have to say, you know, it was very entertaining. And even besides the racing, the strategy, seeing the strategies drivers were trying was very refreshing. That it wasn't just all, you know, the same strategy. It was nice to see a bit of a mix and give us a bit of head scratching to do to try to figure out what drivers are doing in the race.
Quite right, and the verdicts from stewarding from the sprint and the feature are there are no time penalties to be added, so the results that have been on track have been where people have finished, so that is good news for anyone involved in incidents and or any little moments they wouldn't want to remember. But Mac, that was a great set of races even, and a lot of drivers are going to go away very, very happy. And those who haven't perhaps achieved the results they want have many opportunities to do in the remaining 9 races of this season. But Matt, I'm going to ask you the ever important question. Driver of the day.
I don't think I've ever been the one asking driver of the day. You always put me on the spot.
You know why I asked you first rather than you asked me?
Yeah, exactly. I'd have to say, you know, I'd feel bad if I didn't give him the driver of the day. But I have to say, you know, Nigel, I mean, like, there's a few honorable mentions I'd have to give, but I mean, Nigel was the one that took home both the victories, and of course you said he got the near Grand Slam. Or did he get a Grand Slam? I'm not sure. Did he actually get that, or was he something else?
He did have both fastest laps and both wins, but he did not have pole position, so it's not quite a Grand Slam.
Okay, fair enough. Well, he was very, very close to doing it, so I think he has to be driver of the day. But I have to say, a few honorable mentions. I mean, Sarah as well. I honestly, can I just say the whole grid? Like, I mean,
no.
But like, I have to say, a few shout outs would definitely be, you know, Sarah, Iceman trying the alternate strategy as well, Druid with the defense, Sarah of course with the very nice P2 in the feature race, and a very nice, I think it was P4 in the sprint. So I mean, she showed very good consistency as well over this weekend, or over this round. And I have to say, you know, Druid as well with defense, even though he didn't do very good in the feature, or he did good, but like he didn't get what he might have wanted in the feature.
Yeah, I was very hoping you were going to mention Druid's defense on that, because that was a standout thing from both races there.
Exactly.
I think we're going to agree on this one, Mac. I think Nigel has to take it, but a few shout-outs, and I'm going to agree with everything you said there, because I think that is absolutely spot on. And I will say it's great to see some of the new drivers like Sturdy, Degen and Smurf taking part, and it'll be great to see any and all improvement from them, and it was really great to see some of the dicing action on track as well. So shout out to the rookies for this season of Season 5 F1 RST. But Matt, I think we should bring that one to a close. I think this has been a really good round, and is going to be really interesting to see what happens in the 9 remaining blue lobby races this season, let alone the red lobbies as well. That's still to come. So, Matt, I'm going to say thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure here today. I look forward to doing some more with you, and we'll see yourself and some of the other commentators throughout the rest of the season. Any final words from you, Mac, and then we'll call it a night?
I have to say, pleasure's been mine. It's been great to commentate alongside you, Midnight. And I have to say this because I said I would say it before the recording. This is the first recording we're doing this season. So, considering that, I'm looking forward to all the other ones that we do for the rest of the season, for the remaining 9 rounds. And it's going to be a very, very interesting couple of months.
Fully agree. So thank you to everyone for viewing this. Please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Share it if you want in Discord servers around places, Facebook, whatever you want to do. But you can find us on Instagram, TikTok and YouTube for some short content, as well as all of these races and past seasons. We have 4 other past seasons to go and check out. And if you're interested in joining us for any action, please check the link tree in the description and come and chat to us if you want to. And see you on track. But thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice one, and see you in the other lobbies and other videos. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Now we move on to the feature race and the qualifying results for said feature race. With that in mind, Sarah, can you take us through the top lot, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. So in pole position for the feature race, we have Koulios starting on the soft tyres and setting a time of a 1:41.1. In just behind, we have Katie Dekai, also setting a time of a 1:41.1, but on the medium tyres, so already thinking about the long game compared to Koulios, who's obviously looking for a very quick getaway. But in P3, sporting obviously the new BMW, we have Charlie in the setting a time on the mediums with a 1:41.5, so already gelling with that BMW, which is good to see. In P4, we then have our very own Pedro starting on the mediums with a 1:42 flat, and just behind, almost creating a Nighthawk duo, we have Midnight ISO starting on the mediums with a 1:42.1. Just behind, we have Sophia in that Mercedes with a time of a 1:42.2, setting her time on the mediums. And in P7, we then have McManley in the Ferrari with a time of 1:42.4 and also sporting the medium tyres to start with. And then over to you, Midnight, for the rest of the grid.
Perfect, and that brings us to Kirk in P8 in that Genesis of 1:42.7. So he's done well there, and he's going to be looking to move forwards in the race because he's not going to want to finish in 8th. He's going to want to try and aim for those podiums. But that brings us to P9 and Coach on the medium tyre, also on 1:42.9. Then in P10 we have Fodder on the hard tyres, the first of the hard tyre runners, on a 1:42.9, and that looks like a cracking time, particularly that close to Coach as well. But we have to see how it pans out in the race. Then in P11 we have Mercedes with the hard tyres also on that 43.3. Then P12 we have Sophie on a 1:43.8. And then with no time set in the Lexus we have Sicily, who will be selecting hard tyres. But Sarah, I have to say it's going to be interesting for this feature race. Koulios at the top, stealing a pole position and an extra 3 points, so he's going to be very happy with himself. But he's probably going to be a little bit wary that Kai directly behind it by about 7/100ths of a second on a step harder of tyres, and around a track like Barcelona, that might put Koulios right back into the pack very early on. But we'll have to see how strategy plays out. It's going to be one of those tricky ones for him, I feel.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, nearly setting identical times but on two different tyres. I'd say Katie Dekai's got a slight advantage here. Obviously, being on the mediums, he'll be able to go that a little bit longer. And like you've already touched on, it's going to be a track and a sprint race. And a feature race, sorry. It's going to really chew through those tyres. So I think Koulios will be looking in his rearview mirror, seeing Katie Dekai wanting to pass him as quick as he can. But let's hope for Koulios that he can get a quick and clean getaway, so that he can create a little bit of a gap between himself and Katie Dekai.
Agreed. And one driver I'm going to say two drivers I'm going to say keep an eye on in this is Sophia, who suffered with quite high tyre degradation in the sprint race, and the other one being McManley, who seems to absolutely come alive in the feature races. So two to watch out for, but like you say, Charlie is another one to keep an eye on, but Katie Dekai, he's looking strong already. With that in mind, Sarah, let's hand over to the commentators and enjoy the race.
Do these. We're getting ready for round one, the feature race, red lobby. All the cars are waiting for the lights to go out, and the light is just about to go out. Matt getting a flying-ish start in that Ferrari. Looked like it kind of stalled a little bit for him, but already 4 wide going into turn 1 at the moment between the top 7, 8. There's so many things going on at the one time, it's so hard to keep an eye on. But 3 wide going into turn 1 between Midnight, Mac and Kirk. Kirk qualifying quite high in that Genesis, but he's got a little bit of a tap from McManley there, which lost him a couple of positions. So I might have jinxed Kirk there, Louis, on the first couple of corners.
Yeah, it was a good start from Kirk, and then he just sort of got a little tap there from Mac in turn 2, and it's just dropped him back down again a couple of positions there. But good start from everybody, a couple of sort of position changes, but no serious incidents, which we like to see at turn 1, so everyone's got away cleanly, thankfully.
Yeah, that's what we like to see. Obviously, we've just come off of the sprint race, so hopefully all the cobwebs have been, blown out the window, and the drivers, got their focused heads on at the moment. But it looks like Midnight trying to look for a move around the outside of Kirk, but Kirk managing to keep hold of that P7 spot at the moment. But I was just looking a little bit further behind. I can say that Koulios was the only driver to go on the soft compound tyres. He's in P3, obviously he started on pole, so he's already lost a couple of positions, but he's going to have to try and make those softs work. Unique strategy call, but let's see what he can do. Everyone else mostly starting on the mediums, apart from Citily, Sophie, Mercedes and Fodder choosing to go on the hard compounded tyre, Louis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Koulios I think will be, like I said, a unique call there to take. Obviously, trying to get the pole position for the extra sort of bonus point, but obviously we're disappointed to have dropped down a couple of positions there because he would have liked to have been able to use the sort of the full capabilities of those soft tyres at the front of the grid there. So that's kind of probably messed up his strategy already on lap 1, but we'll see what he can do. But yeah, everybody else seems to be now settled down after lap 1, all line of stern, and we've got Coach and Mercedes sort of having a little sort of battle there into turn 1. Coach, I think, stays in front there. So
yeah, it looked like Mercedes had to take a little bit of avoiding action there, going on the outside and nearly losing control of that GTR, but thankfully, managed to keep it on the road just without getting a time penalty or spinning off. Not what you want to do in the first couple of laps, for sure. But yeah, apart from that, at the moment, everyone battling for a few positions, but it seems quite calm at the moment, which is a little bit unusual normally in this stage. Oh, as I say that, both McManley, I don't know what happened there, a bit of a glitch from my side. It looked like McManley and Charlie went flying off into the sand. I think that might have just been a glitch my side.
yes, absolutely. I think I saw Coach have a bit of a glitch there as well. We've got Koulios making a move here on Sophia into the left-hander. Just going to sneak up the inside there, using those soft tyres to brake a bit later. Good move there by Koulios.
It looked like a very brave move by Koulios there, but the two battling fairly, but hard at the same time, which is obviously good to see. Oh, Sophia dipping that left side of the Mercedes into the gravel there, which has allowed a little bit of a break for Koulios on those soft tyres. Though, Katie Leclerc at the moment, he's stormed ahead.
Yes, absolutely. There, he's got his foot down. He's not sort of holding back at all there. And we've got a couple of penalties as well from Sophia and Charlie. Have both got time penalties there. So Mac will be looking to close in to try and take advantage of those this next lap.
Yeah, and a little birdie has just told me that Sophia did pick up rear end damage as well somewhere in that. So unfortunately, obviously, a time penalty and a little bit of less downforce going on to lap 3. Not what she wants.
No, not at all. No, that's going to happen, especially this early in the race. It's, I don't know when her first pit stop will. Well, we know those medium tyres aren't necessarily going to last that long. I mean, we know also Sophia's on the motion controller, so I think it harms her tyre wear even more than most. So that's it's not going to be good for her at all. So we'll have to see what sort of damage limitation she can do on this first stint.
It's always that call. Do you come in to repair the damage, or just kind of stick out with it and see how it goes, or if anyone around you does a similar thing? But we'll keep an eye on her and see what she does. Obviously, Sophia and Charlie getting ready to burn those penalties. Obviously, Charlie's penalty a little bit longer, so Sophia's kept her foot in it. McManley getting through on the both of them at the moment. A very similar move that what Koulios just did a few laps ago. Although McManley looked like he backed out of it a little bit there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just making sure not to make any contact. Sensible there. It's, he'll let another go. He won't know that Sophia's got damage, but I'm sure going down this straight now, she'll lose a little bit of that top end speed. So I would expect to see McManley possibly get past here quite easily, but we'll see.
And talking about change of positions as well, it looks like Sophie did manage to make that move stick on Coach on the previous lap. The Coach obviously tucked up in the back of that R8. He's pulled out into the inside line onto lap number 4. Obviously, it looks like he broke a lot later than Sophie there, getting to the apex first, cutting it off, and job done by Coach there. But I don't think it's over between these two just yet.
No, good move there by Coach, like you said. Yeah, just using those medium tyre advantage over the hards there, and just nice clean move at the inside.
I think obviously this stage here, obviously 4 laps in, it's still quite early, but we're already kind of seeing those different strategies emerging, and obviously the pros and cons of some tyre choices like the softs. I don't think they're obviously going to last as long as what Koulias probably wants them to, but let's see what he can do. Obviously he's not too far away from KD Dekai, so I'm sure he'll be happy about that. But obviously when you're faced with the soft tyres, he's going to have to come into the pits way before anyone else has to. But the battle between Mac and Sophia has reignited. Mac on the outside line for this tight left-hander. Looked like the two nearly come together, but Sophia keeping into the inside and manages to sweep past McManley there before the end of the lap. But Charlie just observing at the moment, slightly behind these two.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got Pedro just behind there. We'll be watching on, and we've got Kirk and Midnight as well, just a little bit further back there. They'll just be keeping an eye on this battle here. So yeah, nice 6-car battle going on. We've got, I'll say, Sophia at the front of this with that damage, just sort of not holding them up, but obviously the pace is not sort of there compared to Koulias and Kai at the front. So there's quite a big gap opening up there between P2 and P3. So I think Mac's going to want to go and get past as quick as he can here.
Yeah, and looks like Pedro managed to get the move done on Charlie here. So obviously Charlie keeping an eye on that battle behind. Maybe a little bit lapse in judgment. Made a little bit of a gap for Pedro, which Pedro thankfully took without coming together. Looks like Kirk just slightly further behind wants to make that move stick on Charlie as well, trying to eke out a little bit of a gap that he can put that Genesis in. But yeah, I think it's definitely a repeat of the sprint race. Obviously, we had a 5 or 6 car battle in the sprint, and they're eager to do that again in the feature race. Obviously, like you say, the gap between Sophia and Koulias and KD Dekai is getting bigger, and I'm sure, obviously, like you say, Mac keeping an eye on that gap, wants to get past Sophia as soon as he can. But I don't think she's going to make it easy for him.
No, definitely not. So yes, he'll be looking to get, because he won't want Koulias to get too far in front of him. We know Koulias will have to stop a lot earlier. So depending on what strategy Koulias is going to run, as to Mac won't want that gap to grow and grow. But Sophia will not let him get past easily. She just dips a wheel in the dirt there again, struggling obviously with that aero sort of damage. And then we've got Charlie, Kirk and Midnight together. So
yeah, I was just keeping an eye on that battle as well. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the exact battle that I was looking at as well. It looked like Midnight was really, really close to Kirk there. But obviously he broke a little bit earlier just so he didn't come into contact. But it looks like Mac has got that move done going into turn 1 of lap 6. So I'm eager to see the pace of Mac in that Ferrari now that he's been released.
yeah, I think Sophia, now got a 1 second penalty. I think she must have run wide at the last corner and picked up a half-second penalty, which allowed Mac to get the run. So she's now got a 1 second penalty. So yeah, I'll be interested to see now if Mac can sort of close up on Koulias in the next couple of laps before Koulias makes his first pit stop. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on his pace. And then will be Pedro now looking at Sophia, thinking now that he wants to get past and not let Mac get away. So they're all sort of lining up slowly.
I was just trying to think, maths is not my strong point, if anyone knows me, but I was just thinking that 1 second penalty is going to hurt Sophia quite a lot here. Obviously, if these 4 drivers behind her can get past, then that's quite a few positions lost by Sophia, although it does look like she's burned that penalty. It's let Pedro through, but Charlie and the rest a little bit too far behind to make, obviously, use her penalty to their advantage. But it looks like Charlie having to brake a lot sooner, nearly caught Kirk by surprise, but the two not coming together, thankfully. But Midnight, I think, will be eager for something to happen to let him through as well.
Yes, yeah, and I've just seen Mercedes, I think, has been in the pits as well. I think he had some front end damage that he's been in to repair. Didn't change tyres or fuel, so just like you said, that strategy call of, he was on the hard tyres, so we don't want to be in changing tyres yet, but he obviously felt like he needed to come in and repair that damage, so that's dropped in quite a way back now.
two Nighthawk commentators and admin members coming together ever so slightly between Kirk and Midnight there. Looked like a little bit of a tussle going into the first corner. The Midnight managing to get that move done and dusted on Kirk. And maybe, maybe some polite words were exchanged to let Midnight through, but it did look like elbows were out between the two.
No, well, I think Midnight, he must have remembered from what happened at Bathurst when Kirk launched it on him into turn 2. So that's a bit of a give back there from Midnight.
Yeah, no, you've just reminded me that in previous seasons, Kirk has been known to T-bone Midnight around this track. So maybe Kirk's lining it up for another one this time. We'll see. Hopefully not, but you never know. Kirk might be planning to take Midnight out of the race. Hopefully not. Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
but it might spice the race up halfway through if nothing else happens. Oh, saying that, Kirk going for a very, very late dive bomb and does force Midnight off of the track, but he doesn't let Midnight back through. Yeah. Kirk, I didn't mean take it literally. Come on, Kirk. But it looks like Fodder wants a little bit of a piece of the action as well. But he looks to that gap, but thinks better of it. I mean, I'd think better of it, especially on Kirk as well. He's not the easiest to overtake, as you just saw. But it looks like Citily having a little bit of a quieter race as well. Obviously, just eager to get round. That Lexus, obviously, probably not the easiest car to drive around here. This track, obviously, we showed in the sprint race, it is quite harsh on tyres. So maybe the car not being well suited to this track. But it looks like Coach and Fodder having a little bit of side-by-side action into this first couple of corners. Coach getting in front of Fodder here. Fodder having a little bit more of a difficult feature race than sprint race here, Louis.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, but I mean, he's on the hard tyres. He'll be looking to go long, obviously, on his first stint, and hope to probably get himself, as long as he can stay within a decent distance of the first, the few cars in front of him, then he'll have because he's on the hards, the rest of the three in front have got mediums, so he'll have a little advantage later in the race, as long as he can not lose too much of a gap to the cars in front. So he'll be calm at the moment. He'll just be sitting in, doing his own thing, and just playing the long game, as Midnight likes to do, as he likes to tell me all the time. Play the long game.
Yeah, I think we've definitely heard that advice so many times from Midnight. So maybe Fodder taking that advice today and playing the long game. But having a little bit of a look further up, it looks like Pedro is getting closer and closer to Mac as well here, going on to lap number 9 now. That's someone coming into the pits. That's Koulios coming into the pits. So Koulios making those soft tyres last for only 8 laps, Louis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a hard wearing course, this one. So yeah, 8 laps, which is not bad really. I mean, we know that McLaren is quite good on its tyres, so it'll probably last longer than a lot of people's will. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what tyres he goes on to next, or whether he fills up with fuel or what. So it'll be interesting to see what he does and where he comes out in relation to everybody else.
See, I think he used obviously the softs to the best of his ability. He's making a few moves, done and dusted, especially on that early move on Sophia, but maybe not getting 100% performance out of those tyres around this track. Obviously, you'd want them to last just that little bit longer to create a bit of a bigger gap between the drivers behind. But I think obviously maybe Sophia might have helped him out unintentionally there. Obviously being the cork in the bottle a little bit earlier on, that might have helped Koulios out a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be hoping that sort of Mac was starting to catch him a little bit, so it'll be it'll be interesting to see when these guys will make their first stops off the medium. So Koulios has gone to the medium tyres, so it'll be interesting to see how far he gets those tyres now, as Max had a penalty there, so that lets Pedro go through. He's outbraked himself a little bit there. Max gone back past now. Pedro will be disappointed. Charlie's gone off there as well. Everyone's following each other off there.
I was going to say that it was like copy and paste there, because you talking about Mac burning the penalty and letting Pedro through. Sophia did exactly the same. Charlie going through while Sophia was burning that penalty. But both the people overtaking the penalty takers were going off wide and letting the people back through. So it was copy and paste between these guys here.
And Charlie's picked himself up a penalty now just to
Oh
rub
no.
salt in the wound as well.
I'm sure he'll be not very happy about that. But it looks like Pedro getting ever so close to Mac there. I'm thankful that those two didn't come together. It looked like they were getting very acquainted there between the two, Lambo and Ferrari. But like I say, Charlie picking up a penalty. Obviously, these three in front of him are penalty free at the moment. Don't want to jinx them. So that's going to drop him back a little bit into Midnight's arms here. But it looks like everything else behind is equaling out a little bit. Obviously, Koulios coming out in that P12 spot at the moment. He's got a bit of a challenge on his hands to catch a few drivers. But hopefully, obviously, I'd say the medium runners at the moment, they're in good, steady pace at the moment. So they won't be coming in for... Although I say that, and I just had a look at Sophia's tyres, and again, not looking in the best of shapes.
No, not compared to the drivers around, and obviously he's got that damage as well to deal with. And Charlie's sort of struggling on his tyres a little bit as well. The front left is worn quite heavily compared to the drivers around him, so he's going to be struggling a little bit in the next couple of laps probably. So, but I think Koulios will just need to pump some consistent laps in now and get that sort of rhythm going on the medium tyres, and just see where he funnels back in once everyone else makes their stops.
So you're only 10 laps in, obviously going on to lap number 11 now. It feels like this race has been going on for a lot longer, but that just goes to show obviously the pack is so close to each other at the moment. There's action across the field, and like I said earlier, it makes our job a lot harder. But is that's
Charlie in the pits as well, yeah?
We spotted that at the exact same time.
He obviously heard me talking about his tyres, and he decided I'll get off those then.
Yeah, maybe he's tapped us into his ears and he's like, "Oh, those guys said to come in. I'll come in." I wouldn't listen to us, though.
No, I'm not one to listen to about tyre wear. I'm terrible at it. So
honestly,
I'm the last person to give advice for tyre wear.
Midnight will know. I always ask him. He seems to know some stuff about tyres, so I always try and ask him. But sometimes he's a little bit of a white lie. Sometimes say that the tyre will last. Oh, and sometimes it won't. As I say that, it looks like things were heating up between Coach and
I just saw that.
Kirk
a little tap there.
Ooh, Kirk getting a little bit, obviously, I'd say forced out wide a little bit, and that has given him a half a second penalty. He'll be seething about that.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. He came out the corner really slow there as well. Almost like he had no acceleration there as well coming out of that corner. So, yeah, and I think he's just gone wide again there. So he's going to probably pick up another penalty there as well for his next lap, just to make him even happier.
Yeah. We don't like an unhappy Kirk.
No, an unhappy Kirk can quickly turn into an angry Kirk, unfortunately. So hopefully he'll calm himself down. I think his tyres are starting to get quite low as well, so he might be in the pits the next lap or two as well. So
it gives him a chance to breathe as well.
Yeah.
But he's not too far behind Sophie at the moment, so maybe if he can get that overtake done, maybe he put him in a little bit of a better mood. Talking about overtaking, it looks like Fodder was maybe potentially looking for an overtake on Coach here. He's tucked up behind the rear of that Supra at the moment. Coach taking a much narrower line than I expected. Obviously, Fodder going for the wider line into turn one. Looks like he's carrying just that little bit more speed than Coach. Coach trying to cap off those apexes to make sure that Fodder doesn't get there. But the overspeed on Fodder here looks like he might try and go for the outside move here into this corner. Although, again, Coach placing that Supra exactly where Fodder wants to place his Porsche, Louis. Yeah,
good defending there from Coach. We know Coach is a good defensive driver. He knows where to put that car. He's used to driving that Supra. He knows it inside and out. So he's not going to be easy to get past here for Fodder. So he'll have to just bide his time and just, possibly down the pit straight is probably his best option to get past. That Supra had a bit of a sort of nerf in the last BOP change, so it's not quite as quick on the straight as it used to be. So we'll see what happens on this start of the next lap between those two.
Looks like currently, obviously, Fodder on the hard tyres. If you can get that move done, that puts him in great position for his second stint.
yes, you'll be looking at, I think now, the tyres have probably started to do that sort of crossover point now between the two of them. So I think Coach will start to lose a bit of pace, while Fodder will be sort of keeping his pace as it sort of already was. So he'll be looking to try and get past with Sophia's in the pits as well now. She's got rear damage as well, so she's obviously been off somewhere. Oh, front damage. So she's obviously been off somewhere.
Ouch. You don't want front and rear damage here. Will make the car basically impossible to drive. Oh, a little birdie has told me that that damage was because of a pit lane crash. So we've already had our first victim of the season of a pit lane crash.
Oh,
It's
right,
the worst when you do that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you feel a bit silly sometimes when you do it, but it is quite easily done here with the wall in Catalonia. It's quite easily done if you come in a bit too hot. It's a lot tighter than you think it's going to be, so you have to sort of slow down a bit more than you would want to. It's very easily just to clout the wall coming in. We've all done it, as they say. We've all done it.
Yep. I can count probably the amount of times that I've done it. There's an embarrassing one for me. I can't remember exactly where it was. I think it was Autopolis. That pit lane there is a pain in the butt. I've crashed so many times going into there. So, like say, easily done. But it looks like at the moment, Fodder biding his time behind Coach, obviously maybe potentially not wanting to wear down those hards too much at the moment. Maybe, like you said earlier, playing the long game again. Although I'm sure, knowing Fodder, he'll want to get that move done and dusted as soon as he can. The Coach is going to make his job a lot harder. But it looks like Mac and Pedro obviously quite comfortable on that P2 and P3 spot at the moment, with Midnight not too far behind in P4. So those three Nighthawk admin members doing a pretty good job so far.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the fuel, and Pedro's got quite a lot more. Well, I say a lot more. A good little chunk of fuel more than the Mac in front of him. So that's going to save him a good little bit of time in the pit stops. That will, when he's filling up. So if he can keep this distance to Mac, he might well come out in front in the next pit stop. If they both fill up, he'll be out in front, I would imagine.
It's quite surprising that obviously Pedro being the one with the slightly better fuel, and tyres, I'd say they're kind of roughly-ish the same at the moment. Obviously, Mac being a wheel user, they should be in a little bit better shape than compared to Pedro. Obviously, Pedro being on controller, but yeah, eager to see those two having a little bit of a close battle after their second stint. But I was just having a look. Kirk obviously coming into the pits now as well. He's just coming out of the pits. Where will that place him? That will place him in P12. Looks like Mercedes, unfortunately, still in that P13 spot. Must have accidentally missed a little bit of an issue from Mercedes there, because it's unusual to see Mercedes that far back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he had a poor lap earlier in the race where I think he must have spun or got damage, or maybe possibly had sort of maybe a disconnect somewhere or something like that, and the car just drove and he had damage and he came into the pits, so he lost a lot of time early in the race. So he'll be looking to try and get back into it. And we've got Kai coming in the pits from the lead.
She will promote Mac and Pedro up a position, which I'm sure they'll be very happy. Mac obviously enjoying that clean air at the moment, although he's got that very loud Hurricane right behind him, so obviously pressure's not off just yet. But like I say, obviously those two very close on track and kind of strategy-wise at the moment. So I'm interested to see what tyres they both go for next. Will it be the same compound, or will they obviously switch up and go for different tyres? We'll have a look. But Fodder just tucking up behind Coach at the moment, and Sophie is looking like she's just about catching the two in front. She's got a healthy gap to them at the moment, so obviously not piling on the pressure to Fodder and Coach at the moment. Well, I'm sure those two in front will be aware of that very bright R8 being in their rearview mirrors.
Yes, she sat there nicely with those hard tyres. They're looking quite healthy. The fuel's not looking brilliant for Sophie, unfortunately, but tyre-wise, she's looking pretty good. So she'll be happy with how she's getting on so far. She's been consistent. So it'll be interesting with Koulos, who's effectively, I think, net P1 at the moment. He's come out in front of Kai after Kai's pit stop. So
talking about pit stops, Midnight just come out of the pits and just got smack bang in the middle of Charlie and Sophia there. But unfortunately, Midnight followed Charlie, who went a little bit wide, so he's at the back of the three here. But yeah, Midnight obviously wanted probably a little bit of an easier run out of the pits, but got stuck in the action straight away. But unfortunately, does lose a few positions coming out of the pits into P11.
and we've got Pedro in from P2, but he's also got a half-second penalty that he'll have to burn on his outlap. So potentially going for an undercut on Mac, but we'll have to see how he gets on there, because that half-second penalty is going to cost him probably more like a second, I would imagine.
Not ideally what you want as you're coming out of the pits on a fresh
No, not at all. So, and it'll be interesting to see where Pedro comes out in relation to this battle with Sophia and Charlie and Midnight, because this is going to be close, and Kirk potentially.
Looks like he might lose those positions there. Those three have gone through. He's just about to come out of the pits, and it looks like he's going to tuck up behind these two. Just.
Or Kirk's come in. I think Kirk's going to get through as well.
Oh.
But that's not what Pedro really wanted, I don't think. He's
no.
He was looking in a strong position, but I think he's had a couple of sort of semi-scruffy laps towards the end of his stint there, and that's cost him a fair chunk of time, that has. And we've got Midnight's gone past Charlie as well into turn one.
Kirk looking a little bit sideways coming out of that corner there as well. Not what Kirk wants either, but yeah, I think obviously Pedro being on the hard compounded tyres as well, obviously they're a lot harder to get up the temperature, so I'm sure obviously coming out of the pits he might have been aware obviously the closing speed of Kirk was a lot more than him, so maybe he wanted to not get in any trouble, but or that Lambo just had other ideas and didn't want to go. But Mercedes is currently into the pits as well with a half-second penalty as well. McManley also into the pits with Coach not too far behind, so that does release Fodder as well, who's currently in that P1 position.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, he's that sort of the playing the long game for him is working out quite well so far. So, but I think another sort of couple of laps and he'll be in the pits, I think, for his first stop as well.
I think about it. Could he make a one-stop work?
I'm not sure. I don't think the Porsche's kind enough on its tyres, because obviously he's used the hards, so he's going to have to use the mediums, and I think the hards, maybe if he gets another 2 laps, is 9.6. I don't know. I think it's a very risky call to do a one-stop there. He'd be a very brave man, in my opinion, to be trying to. I mean, you could obviously go on to mediums and you could try it, and if you're not quite, you can always put the softs on towards the end for last few quick laps. So, I mean, it's worth a try. You never know.
Sounds like a strategy that Midnight would have gone for.
Oh, absolutely, yes. We know someone would have gone for that one, definitely.
Yeah. And definitely Midnight likes to pick out those very unique strategies as well. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on Fodder and Midnight as well, because I'm sure he'll pull out something crazy in a minute. But obviously Fodder had to burn a half-second penalty there, so it brings Sophie a little bit closer to him. She's currently running in P2, so she's having a brilliant race so far. Koulios in that P3 position with Katie Dekai not too far behind again. So I'm sure Katie Dekai will be eager to get onto the podium and maybe relax a little bit. But just in front, I think that is Mercedes. So Koulios not too far away from lapping Mercedes here. And a little birdie on the pit wall has just made us aware that obviously the battle we were watching between Pedro and McManley earlier, obviously both coming into the pit stops in the last couple of laps, Pedro managed to undercut McManley here. So I think Pedro, obviously, unfortunately, nearly getting into a bit of a tussle with Kirk. I'm sure he'll be happy that he's managed to undercut that Ferrari.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's got quite a big undercut as well, a lot bigger than I expected it to be. So obviously that fuel difference that they had is paid dividends for Pedro there to get in front, and they're both on the same tyres on the hard tyres now. So yeah, he's made that work, Pedro.
And I'm kind of, in a way, I'm kind of glad that they both went on the same tyres, because obviously we can still compare their laps towards the end of the race as well, because they look like they're both on a very, well, at the moment they're on exactly the same strategy call. So it'd be interesting to see who comes out on top towards the end of the race. Obviously we're 18 laps in, so we're far from over as yet. But on that 18th lap, we did see Katie the Kite managing to get past Coolio, so Katie the Kite back onto the podium, his favourite place to be, but I'm sure he'll be trying to get the win here today. But Fodder and Sophie, two of the drivers that started on those hard tyres, have come in on the 18th lap. That's quite a stint there, Louis.
Yeah, that's good going. Now they've obviously burnt all their fuel off, so they're going to have long. So it'll be interesting to see what tyres they go onto. I mean, so Sophie's tyres are a lot better than Fodder's, so I mean, she might be able to make the one stop work, possibly in that Audi. I mean, the fuel's lasted half the race, so full tank of fuel, medium tyres, she might be able to get them to the end. So it'll be interesting to see what she does there. We've seen Kai go past Mercedes, lapping Mercedes there.
I think Mercedes will kind of want to maybe forget this race after we've done here today. Obviously, probably not the ideal way that he wanted to start his season off with a new car being in the GTR, but obviously sometimes issues. I think obviously it's better to get it out of the way in the round number one. Maybe obviously round number two come back a little bit stronger. I'm sure. Obviously, we're used to Mercedes being involved in the action, so taking a day off today and having a little bit of a quieter race.
Yeah, and I've just noticed as well, we've seemed to have lost Charlie. He's quietly
Yes,
disappeared from somewhere, so I don't know whether that's a disconnect or something, but Charlie's not with us anymore, unfortunately, so I don't know what happened there.
fortunate because he was having a pretty good race from what I remember.
Yeah,
He was,
he was doing well there. He was going to the hard tyres for a second stint, and I did see him had a couple of penalties, so I don't know whether
sorry,
he
I
was
didn't
just
mean
struggling
to
there. And
interrupt you and wins there. I just saw Kirk becoming an aeroplane and going straight over the curb into the barriers and picking up some quite hefty damage.
yes,
Not what you want after just coming into the pits not that long ago.
no, absolutely no. So I mean, it might be able to see here whether or not he pits and goes back onto hard tyres, whether he could get them to the end of the race or not, or whether he's just gonna struggle around with what he's got. So there's a strategy call here for Kirk as he's coming around to the pits now.
It looks like he just lost the rear end of that car and it just went spinning in sideways into the wall. It looked quite uncontrollable, to be honest. So I'm surprised he didn't pick up more damage than what he did on the front end and a little bit of suspension damage. But looks like he's coming in to repair that damage. But like you say, potentially he could go on to another set of hards, go to the end, and obviously that ticks the box for the 2-tyre compound rule. So we'll keep an eye and see what he comes out on shortly. But Midnight looks like he's about to engage in a bit of a battle between Sophia here. These two, they're seasoned pros. They used to racing each other, so obviously they're aware of their attacking and defending skills. So probably one of the two of the most people that are the hardest to overtake. So I'm excited to see who comes out on top between these two. Obviously, the two on slightly different strategies at the moment. And Sophia's tyres looking a little bit worse for wear compared to Midnight's.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Midnight catching her quite quickly here. So yeah, Sophia's definitely starting to struggle again on those tyres. It'll be interesting. I'm just looking at the lap times between Pedro and McManley, and they're running 9,000th of a second between them the last lap. So they're very evenly matched. Not much catching up going on here between these two.
So I was just having a look across the field. I was just I had a quick little look at Fodder. He's managed to come out very close between, behind Coach. So obviously those two pitting very recently, and obviously this will be a battle that will be brewing right to the end. But just having a quick little look as well, the battle between Sophia and Midnight has got a little bit closer on this the start of lap number 21.
Yeah, and Sophia picking up a half-second penalty, so Midnight stays close to where he'll get that position on the little back straight here coming up. So doesn't need to do anything silly here, just play it sensible, which he'll be well aware of. He knows what he's doing. He knows not to do anything silly. He'll just wait his time here and just let her take the penalty and just go past.
Yeah, why make it difficult when you can have a nice and easy pass in the second? Midnight, obviously, like you say.
Yes, it's
long game.
You know, you just have to race smart. Sometimes it's better to race smart than race hard. It's
No, exactly. Oh, although
Sophia's not going to make it easy, but he does make that move.
I was going to say, Midnight pulling out a switcheroo on Sophia there. Looked like he was maybe potentially going for the outside line, switching back to the inside line. You've got to love when a good old switcheroo, is successful. Sometimes it doesn't always happen, but Midnight showing there that fully capable of making it work. And Sophia coming into the pits, so obviously a well-fought battle between the two, but that has released Midnight for a little bit, so he can breathe and race a little bit more calmly for a little bit.
Yes, and I'd imagine Sophia will go hard tyres here to the end, so this will be her final stop. She should better get the hard tyres to last the rest of the race, so and that'll be her 2 tyres out of the way.
Having a quick look and also confirmation from our very own strategist. I have to come up with a nickname for him, but it looks like Coach and Midnight haven't fulfilled the 2 tyre compound rule as yet, and Kai. So obviously 3 drivers yet to tick the box. So obviously be interesting to see what tyres they go on. We've got about 13-ish laps left to go, so obviously interesting to see. It looks like obviously if Midnight's been on the mediums twice, could we potentially see Midnight go onto the softs before the end of the race?
Yeah, I think that's probably his strategy. I would think if you're doing 2 mediums, you should be able to do a set of softs. I imagine Kai and Coach will be doing the same thing, so it'll be interesting to see then what happens here with Pedro and Mac, whether they're going to be able to do a one-stop here now that they've done mediums and hards. So there's lots of different strategies in play here. This is going to be interesting towards the end of the race as to what tyres the people are on and where they are on track.
And, having a look at McManley's tyres as well, could he potentially make that one-stop work that we were discussing earlier? Because he's on the hard tyres, he's got about 13 laps left to go, and they don't look like they're in bad shape.
No, not at all. And he's got, probably got enough fuel to get to the end. He's got a bit more fuel than Pedro. So I think Pedro may be slightly under-fueled at his pit stop there, because maybe that's why he got such a big undercut there on Mac. So that'll be interesting to see the fuel towards the end. And obviously with Fodder and Sophie, whether they can make a one-stop work on the medium tyres after being on the hard to start with.
Fodder playing a little bit of a team game at the minute, because he had the opportunity to pull out side by side with Coach, although it looks like he's going to do that now. On the pit straight, he did give Coach a little bit of a tap, so playing a bit of a team game, trying to carry them both and try and catch the group in front, but also maybe try and fend off Sophie in that R8. But after 23 laps, Fodder has got past Coach, so he's now got in some clean air. Maybe that's what he wanted. He wanted to stay behind Coach for as long as he could, maybe save a bit of fuel and tyres so he can make that one-stop work.
It's quite possibly, yeah. So, and we're going to have, I think Koulios is going to have to come in probably end of this lap as well. His fuel lights flashing and his front left is not seeing its best time, shall we say. So I think we'll see Koulios in again this lap possibly, and I think he'll have to put another set of mediums on to the end, so he'll be fine with that.
Yeah, but I think Mac is starting to catch Pedro here. The two have got a lot closer to each other within the last couple of laps. While I've been having a look at everyone else, you get on Max on board. You can just about see Pedro going into turn one now. So obviously Mac pushing that Ferrari to the limits to catch the Lamborghini of Pedro here. So it's gonna get very close between these two shortly.
Yeah, Max taking another sort of took 3 tenths out of Pedro that last lap, so he's slowly, reining them in. So I think they could potentially get quite close towards the end of this race. 11 laps to go.
At the moment, there's quite a gap between most of the drivers. So, racing their own race for round number one. Obviously, just keeping it, it's best to finish, get as many points as you can on the board going into round number two. Obviously, I don't know if you agree, round one is always the hardest because you've got some expectations on yourself and you want to achieve certain things. So just get round one done and dusted. I'm sure obviously the drivers will be just willing to pick up as many points as possible. And talking about drivers, Koulios coming into the pits hopefully for his final stop.
Yes, I think so. I think we should on to another set of mediums and a bit of fuel, and that should get him nice to the end. So I think, the next sort of maybe 4 or 5 laps will determine sort of where people are going to be and the strategies that people have been on. As to that will be, like you said, people settle down at the moment, and that's when it's all going to start kicking off again towards the end when people are making their last stops or trying to eke out the tyres that they're on to the end. So it's going to start getting very interesting soon, I think.
Where potentially Koulios might be coming out, looks like he might just get out in front of Sophie, although he's still refueling that car. So it looks like Sophie will breeze past him here, and Koulios will just come out just ever so slightly behind Sophie here. So obviously that drops him down to P8. Will he be able to get back on the podium spot? I'm not sure. I think obviously that soft tyre start may have hampered him a little bit here, Louis.
Yeah, he's quite sort of away behind. I mean, it's going to be interesting to say when Midnight comes in, he's probably going to put on a set of soft tyres as to where he comes out. And he's obviously then going to be quick the last into this race. And then where Koulios is regards to Mac and Pedro, he's got quite a gap to make up there in 10 laps. I'm not really sure that if Pedro and Mac can make a one-stop work, that Koulios is going to catch them here. But it depends on how they get on with their tyres. He knows that Coach has got to pit again, Midnight's got to pit again, Kai's got to pit again, but Kai's just as we know, Kai is just phenomenal at the front here. He just gets in front and just goes, and he's just in that rhythm. You can just look at his lap times, and it's just been so consistent through the whole race. So Kai's just doing his Kai thing.
I think that's the best way to put it. Kai just doing Kai.
That's what Kai does. He just, once he's in that zone and he's going, he's very, very difficult to get anywhere near. Never mind beat. So, once he's on it, that's he's pretty much unstoppable at the moment.
That brings us on to a good point. Obviously, you are our Season 4 champion, but you've had your fair share of battles with Katie the Kai. So take us into a little bit of a kind of driver's mentality when you're facing someone like Katie the Kai and trying to, overtake him.
I think it's the same with it. I think when you're like, it's your pace is pretty solid. We're both pretty quick drivers, and I think it's as long as you can be consistent. I think it's just trying to force someone into a mistake, and no matter how quick you are, we feel pressure when someone's challenging you, and sometimes you just make that silly mistake, and that's what most of the time that when I've raced against Kai and things have happened. When I've raced him, I think Deep Forest last year, he just made a mistake, and it was nothing more than that. It's just what happens, and it's not on raw pace most of the time. It's one of those things you just have to put the pressure on and hope that they crack, basically. And that's the best way to get past people sometimes, is not necessarily go for dives and moves, is just keep that pressure building and building and hope that eventually they'll make a mistake.
Biding your time as well, obviously, like you say, forcing them into a little bit of errors and seeing obviously if you can even tiny little gap, I'm sure you'll take it. But yeah, obviously I think we can reminisce all day between you and Katie the Kai last season. It was you had your fair share of battles, and I think you're both pretty quick. Don't get to see you very much on track because both of you are kind of too far in front, so it's normally you both zooming past me, and I try and stay well clear of you both so that I don't get involved. But thank you for taking us into a little bit of a perspective how it is, racing Katie the Kai. I don't think he's been put under much pressure today. I don't know if you agree. He seems to have just kind of stormed in front, kept in front, and just done what he needs to do for the first race of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it can't have gone much better for him. He got up into P1 very early in the race, and he's just, like you said, he's not had any pressure put on him, and he's just been pumping in those consistent lap times all the way through, and he's not made any mistakes. So he can't be much happier than how his race has gone at the moment. I'm sure he would have liked to have pole position as well, but he's going to be happy with what you would think would be a double race win here, as long as he, like I said, doesn't make any mistakes the last few laps. But he's been pretty solid all the way through. So
it looks like he's just about to come to lap Italy, I think, is the driver in front, and having a little bit further back as well. Kirk moving out of the way for Pedro and McManley, and looks like Fodder not too far behind that battle between Mac and Pedro. Obviously, we've got about I'd say 7-8 laps left. So I think obviously the two, they've got that gap hasn't closed much since the last time we had a little bit of a look, but Fodder trying to get close and maybe front row seats to this battle that might be potentially brewing between the two drivers in front of him. I was just having a look on board everyone else. It's got to that part of the race where we're nearly coming to the closing stages, where we've got quite healthy gaps between the drivers, and not much going out on track, not much action on track at the moment. But what's kind of been your standout moment from round 1 of season 5, Louis?
Well, at the moment, I mean, obviously watching Kai, because it's, I do like that, watching someone who's consistent and quick and whatnot. I am very interested at the moment to see how Midnight gets on here with coming in, I imagine, for his stop soon, and he's probably going to go on to soft tyres. Now, he has got about an 18-second gap, roughly, to the cars behind. Now, he's going to come out just behind Pedro and Mac, you would think, and around near Fodder. But he's going to have those soft tyres on, so he's going to be extremely rapid the last few laps of this race. So I am interested to see where he comes out exactly and what he can do. I think this is going to be the battle for the podium. I'm not sure whether Fodder's going to make those tyres last another 7 laps. So I think he might have to pit again, potentially.
I think you might be right there. I was just having a look on board as well. It looked like obviously Kirk having to move out of the way of Fodder, but Kirk is sticking with him at the moment, so potentially we could see Kirk trying to unlap himself against the Porsche driver of Fodder. I was also having a look at Midnight. You brought my attention to him. His fuel light will be flashing. Has he potentially under-fueled? Well, actually, he might just be able to finish this lap, get into the pits and get those soft tyres on, but cutting it a little bit fine in the closing stages.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure when we know what he's like, he will have worked his strategy out down to a T. I'm sure he'll come in in the pits with 0% of fuel. Knowing Midnight, it will have eked out every sort of last little drop of that fuel in that McLaren. So it'll be but he'll only have then sort of 6 laps, which we know the softs will do 6 laps easily in that McLaren. So he is going to be rapid.
Like you say, obviously, because the drivers are pretty close to each other on times, he might drop a few positions that he might have to try and get back. But I think that just goes to show the talent of drivers that we have here, making obviously those podium drivers work for their drives. It's not going to be easy for him to keep on that podium, but if anyone can do it, I'm sure Midnight will try his best. Obviously, we had an endurance race here at Barcelona a few days before this race, and Midnight did pretty well, so I think he's trying to replicate that performance a little bit. But KD the Kai obviously maybe not making his job that easy, but KD the Kai and Midnight both coming into the pits now for their very final stints. I'd assume KD the Kai is also going to come into put on the soft tyres, and so is Midnight here. But let's keep an eye on that Pedro and McManley fight as they are going on to lap number 30 now. Like I say, obviously these two being on the same-ish strategy, so we'll see where they come out. It looks like KD the Kai has managed to keep the lead though on Pedro and McManley. I mean, he's cutting it perfectly, KD the Kai. He planned that perfectly to come out in front of them, and he doesn't have to wrestle back onto the lead there, Louis.
No, absolutely no. He can just now drive now to the end. He'll be good on those tyres. I'm sure if we know Kai, he'll be wanting to set a much fastest lap, because he won't be backing off too much. He'll still be driving it pretty hard. So he's there. It'll be interesting to see. So we've got Fodder is right up behind McManley here as well.
Piling on the pressure to McManley here. Obviously, I'm sure Max looking in front, trying to catch Pedro, but also being aware of the Porsche that's right behind him at the moment. Fodder piling on the pressure to McManley here. Like I said, I don't know if Mac is gonna. Oh, Mac is getting very sideways coming out of that corner there.
Yeah.
I was going to mention his tyres. His tyres obviously being in a little bit worse shape, but Fodder being on the medium tyres, Mac on the hards. He has a little bit more grip. The two going side by side here. Oh, Fodder trying to make that switcheroo work, but unfortunately, transaction declined there by McManley. McManley is still in the lead in this little bout at the moment, but I think, like you say earlier, I'm not sure if Fodder's going to last 5 more laps on those tyres.
No, I think he's going to struggle there. And these two battling as well is going to bring Sophie and Koulios closer in. Koulios has got good tyres on the mediums, so he's going to be quite quick here. So if these two keep battling, they're going to be losing a lot of time to the two cars behind them.
And obviously, to answer our earlier question, Midnight coming out of the pits in P7, so obviously completely off of the podium. 4 laps to go. Will he be able to get any more positions, or will he be trying his best to get the fastest lap and try and claw back some points? I'm sure that will be his next aim if he can't, overtake Koulios and Sophie here. But it just goes to show, obviously, KD the Kai on a very similar strategy to Midnight, but KD the Kai having a little bit more of an easier time doing so.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So, but no, it'll be interesting to see if Midnight can sort of catch up a little bit. So, but I mean, I say it only takes a couple of mistakes on drivers in front to allow you to catch up that time. So, and we see Mac and Fodder still going at it.
Never seen a Ferrari drift, but I did then. And McManley was driving that the socks off of that Ferrari there, trying to keep Fodder behind. I don't think they'll be, doing McManley's tyres very well. Oh, the two elbows out between the two of them going into the corner here. A few taps, a few obviously of rubs paintwork being exchanged between these two drivers here. But Fodder still behind McManley. McManley not making, not letting Fodder easily pass, and Fodder dives into the pits.
Yeah, he's going to have to. Yeah.
Over.
Unfortunately, Fodder, yes, it's just that Porsche is just not as good on its tyres, unfortunately. So he'll be going on to the softs, but he's going to drop quite a way back.
Unfortunate, obviously, any other car potentially might have made that one-stop strategy work. Obviously, he's got enough fuel to do that one-stop strategy, but just like you say, the Porsche not allowing Fodder to make that one-stop work.
No, unfortunately not. No, where we see Sophie, who pitted on the same lap, is probably going to better get hers to the end, which just shows you how much of a difference those two cars have in their ability to keep the tyres in a healthy position. So Sophie's going to get that to the end, although she's got Koulios right up behind her.
Yeah, Koulios eager to make a move here. He dives up into the inside. Oh, although he broke a lot later, which made obviously Sophie go for that inside line. The two going side by side here. That might bring Midnight into the swing of things if these two keep battling and battling hard. But Sophie looks like she's just about ahead going into the corner, but she's on the outside line. It's going to be a lot harder for her. Oh, elbows out by Koulios there, forcing Sophie a little bit wide. But Koulios manages to get that move done. Maybe obviously not the easiest to overtake there, and I'm sure Sophie will be eager to get that place back. It looked like a little bit of aggression there.
Yeah, I think I was a little bit of a headlight flash then from Sophie. I think she was overly impressed there. It was quite robust from Koulios, but he's, you know, we know how he drives, so we can't expect anything less. So it was a little bit of side contact, but he's made the pass, and he's,
as they always say, rubbing is racing at the end of the day. But I'm sure Sophie had some few choice words that she said behind that helmet as she was flashing those lights. But talking about some more drivers, we've got Coach on the back of Sophia here. Obviously Sophia, after the first stint, not being able to extract the full potential out of that Mercedes, but Coach looks like he might be eyeing up a move here. Obviously Sophia on the hard tyres here. Coach looks like he might just stay behind at the moment, although I say that he pulls off to the inside line, brakes a little bit earlier, but Sophia getting to that apex first. It's it's getting close between those two. I want to look away, but also I don't, because I'm eager to see who gets in front. It looks like Coach manages to take that inside line. Sophia going a little bit wide, and that move is done and dusted by Coach. But Sophia, I'm sure, is not done and dusted yet. She wants that place back.
Yeah, I think she's going to struggle there with those tyres, and Coach being on the softs there just nearly gets rear-ended there from Sophia, but he manages to keep that position. So, but Midnight's caught right up here to Sophie and Koulios. So he's got a chance of a P4 here, Midnight. We knew he'd be quick. He's got 2 laps. He's on the much faster compound, fresher tyres.
I'm sure he's eager to pile on a little bit of pressure to these two drivers here. Although, like you say, a lot of fresher tyres. He's on the softs. He wants to make those softs work and take him to the end. He's already on the back of Sophie here. Sophie pulling into the inside line, potentially thinking that obviously she knows that Midnight is going to try and sail past her, although she's not making his job easy. He's not giving him much room either. He's nearly on the grass. That was
right
so
on
close.
The edge there. Those softs, so he might better hold it round, take the inside line here. Good move, brilliant move there by Midnight.
Yeah, what a move. I was scared for a minute there. I thought, don't want any race-ending moves done there. But it looks like Mercedes, it looks like he's trying to unlap himself on Sophie as well. He does get that move just about done. Obviously, unlaps himself to Sophie, but puts himself right in that battle between Midnight and Koulios here.
Yes, absolutely. So Midnight's going to be looking for a move, potentially down into tight left-hander after this back straight here, if we can line this one up.
See the two McLaren drivers fighting hard onto lap 34. Obviously, we've only got about 1.5 laps left to go, so it's heating up between the two McLaren drivers. A little bit further ahead, I saw that Pedro had a penalty, unfortunately, but he seems obviously quite settled in that P2 position at the moment, and it's going to go down to the wire, I think, between Midnight and Koulios. Koulios just that a little bit further ahead at the moment.
Yeah, Midnight's going to be trying to now then line this up for the pit straight. If he can get a good exit out of the last corner.
I have a feeling that Koulios will be, keeping an eye on his rearview mirror and seeing the Midnight in that very bright red and black McLaren, obviously, that nicknamed the Devil. He wants that place and he wants to get into that P4 position. like I said earlier, will Midnight try and force Koulios into a mistake? We shall see. But Koulios gets to that apex into turn 1 and turn 2. But Midnight on those soft tyres, he's eager to get that move done, Louis.
He is, yeah, but he's running out. He's running up to, and we've got Mercedes as obviously is right there as well. Who doesn't really want to be getting involved in this battle, particularly it's not his race. I think he's just probably enjoying the watch from back there, hopefully, and he won't try and make any moves here because this is not his battle. But I'm sure he's enjoying it nonetheless.
If I was Mercedes here, I'd be like wincing at the moment. Obviously, he's got best seats in the house, but I would not want to get involved whatsoever.
I think we've got sort of one big opportunity left here. Midnight, he needs to line this up for this back straight and try and get down and make a move into this left-hander.
See how close it is between the two drivers at the moment.
He's got a good exit. He's going to be right on him.
He's only got a few corners left to do it, though.
He goes
side
to the
by
inside.
side.
And Koulios is he's yeah. I don't know where he's going. He's going that way. He's obviously had enough.
He's gone to Narnia.
He's gone
to Narnia. He's lost a position to Sophia as well. Sophie. Oh, I think that a rare mistake by Koulios, but I think unfortunately he maybe potentially was looking behind him to see where Midnight was, and Midnight sailing through. Unfortunate, but that brings us to the end of the race, and Katie Kai coming home in first. Pedro after a very difficult first stint in P2 and then Mac in P3, so just goes to show that Pedro, with that fuel advantage at the start, he managed to make it work. But what a battle for that P4 finish by Midnight.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, right down to the wire there, and I think Koulios obviously just completely missed his braking point there into the left-hander, and I think we looked like there was a bit of a handbrake pull there to try and get him around the corner, but didn't quite work out. Unfortunately, he lost 2 positions there. So, but brilliant battle between them all.
Through the rest of the grid, obviously Sophie in that P5 finish in the end in the Audi R8. I think that's a great way to start the season off. She did remarkably well. She always kind of seemed to be involved in a few battles, but also having, you know, a good race, you know, trying to keep out of trouble as much as she could. But talking about trouble, Koulios finishing in that P6 position, very unfortunate. Obviously, we can appreciate how infuriating that must be on the last lap to make a mistake like that. I think, you know, P6 is nothing to be frowned upon on that first race, so I'm sure he'll come back stronger and potentially try and beat Midnight in a few races to come. But in P7 we then have Fodder in the Porsche, and he managed to finish ahead of Coach. Those two obviously battling for the majority of the race. But Louis, if you want to run through the rest of the grid for me.
Yeah, we had Coach then in P8, who had a good steady race there as Coach, to be fair. He'll be reasonably happy, I would imagine, with that. Sophia in P9, knowing Sophia, she'll be disappointed, but obviously struggled massively with the tyres, damage and penalties and stuff. So just not her race this time round, unfortunately. But you know she's quick and she'll be back. Sicily there in P10 in the Lexus. So good job there from Sicily. To be fair, he was sort of running his own race a lot of the time, but he's a good driver and he's improving, getting quicker all the time. So racing with these people will make him faster. So he'll be happy with that. Kirk just doing Kirk things there. He's drops himself near the back of the grid there, unfortunately. So, but he'll be back. He'll be disappointed, and Mercedes probably will be the most disappointed, I'd imagine, out of all the drivers there. Coming home in P12, he'll be looking to massively improve next time around because he'll be disappointed with that. And obviously Charlie, we lost at some point in the race, unfortunately. I don't know whether it was disconnect or whether he was just frustrated and just left. So.
Polar opposites. Charlie having a great sprint race, but maybe a not so good feature race. But hopefully we see him back, and obviously we see his performance in that BMW grow and grow. But yeah, I mean, what a race that was. I think that was the best way to open up, you know, a season 5 opener. Everyone, you know, there was action across the field from lap 1 to 37. So yeah, I think the best opening race that we could have wished for. And I mean, what a race from Katie to Kai there. But now comes on to my question, Louis, of who would you vote for driver of the day?
I mean, there's some honourable mentions. I think Midnight for that last little bit there in the feature race, getting himself back up to P4 after his stop. Pedro and Mac just were pretty consistent all the way through there to take P2 and P3, and were very close to each other all through the race pretty much. Sophie, brilliant there in P5. Really, she'll be really, really happy with that. But I can't give it to anyone else but Kai. It's taken a sprint race win, fastest laps, feature race win. You can't give it to anybody else really. He was just imperious today, as he is most of the time. So for me, it has to be Kai.
I've got to agree with you there. I think I agree with all your honourable mentions as well. There's definitely some standout drives that we've had today, but the one that stands out most to me is Katie the Kai. And like I said earlier, Katie the Kai, just being himself, just being Katie the Kai. We wouldn't expect anything different from him. So yeah, I'm going to agree with you and vote for Katie the Kai for driver of the day. And if he carries on during the season like he has today, I think he's going to, he's going to stomp up into the lead, and he's going to be quite unstoppable. But hopefully we see you in a few races, Louis, and maybe, just maybe, battling with Katie the Kai again. But I don't know about you. Let's go and hear what some of the drivers had to say in the podium room, and go into round number 2 and do this all again.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I should be back for round 3. I'm just having a little holiday break at the moment, but I'll be back, and I'm in a new car this year as well, so it'll be interesting to see how I get on. I'm following Midnight in the McLaren, so it'll be interesting to see how I get on with that. I've not really raced it a lot, but I'm fancying something different this year. But I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see what happens.
Can't wait to see you on the track. But it's been a pleasure to share the commentary booth with you for the first time, and give it up to Louis, everybody. I think he did an amazing job, and hopefully we'll see him back doing some more commentary later on in the season. But for now, we will both say goodbye, and catch you in the next one.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and hope to be back for another one at some point later in the season.
What's up, Nighthawk Racing and Nighthawk Racing fans? This is Iceman, driver of the 85 Redline Racing Genesis X. I'm sitting here post-race right now, just after Barcelona. It's opener of the season. I'm a little surprised to be sitting here with you guys right now, but it is the goal for this season. We finished strong last year, and I definitely wanted to come out and have a good, strong showing in week 1, and I feel like I definitely did that. So just kind of recapping the day, we started P7 there in the sprint race. Feeling good about coming to Barcelona. It's one of my favorite tracks, and I actually I feel like I run pretty well here. Was feeling good about the car, had a good practice, and feeling good about the sprint. Got a great start. Ended up just really kind of driving away, put myself out in that lead pack with everybody, and was running really strong. P3 most of the race, got up to P2, and with about a lap and a half left, I made a big mistake. I guess hustling the car just a little too hard, and spun the car out, unfortunately, and really screwed up my race for the sprint. I ended up, instead of having a P2 like I should have, I ended up P6. So I was a little upset after that one at myself. Only myself to blame for that, of course. And so I try to reset my mind a little bit and get ready for the feature race. And we qualified really well. The car was pretty solid, like I was saying, and feeling pretty confident still. Just kind of wanted to make sure I wasn't going to overdrive the thing. I know that I had a good car, and I wanted to try to come into this thing and really execute the strategy, and I think we did that. Qualified P3, wanted to try to do a 2-stop race, kept my nose clean the whole race, and I was able to do that. We were on the mediums to begin with, stretched them as long as I could, and ended up going on the hards, and I feel like I did a good job managing everything with the car, and ended up P2 there at the end after a long day's battle, and was in a situation where I had Sarah catching me on the softs, and she's battling the same conditions with worn tires, and I just wasn't able to really fend her off. She did a great job and ended up getting by me there at the end, and we ended up P3. So strong podium. Super happy about that. Super excited for what's to come this year, and I've got big goals for myself. Looking at where I started at last season and to where I ended last season and where I am now is, feeling good, feeling confident, and just want to keep getting better and having fun with you guys. And it's been a joy too to see others grow too alongside me, and I think if we all keep working hard at it, the racing's only going to get better, and we're going to see that as the season goes on. So I'm going to keep at it, keep trying to string together good finishes. I want to get into the red lobby, and I want to get in there and compete with those guys, try to learn from everybody that's in there, all the drivers, and just get better. So that's the goal. I want to get in the top 10 or 15 this year in points, and make a little noise and have some fun. So next week we got Dragon Trail at Seaside, and that's another one of my favorites. Really looking forward to that. So on to the next one for me in the Genesis, and we're just going to keep plugging along this season and see what we can do. And just good luck to everybody out there, and I can't wait to watch back all these things, man. It's going to be great.
Thanks guys, awesome race coverage and commentary as ever. This was a dream season opener for me, with a double win in Blue Lobby Sprint and feature races. I qualified on the mediums as I thought it was the best strategy to start the feature race on them. The sprint race was extremely close with Druid, and Iceman was just behind us waiting to pounce. Unfortunately, there was contact between the two of them, and this gave me the chance to get ahead. I got a mega start off the grid in the feature race. The 458 is still strong in that regard, and I had a nice battle with Gary in the opening stint. My strategy paid off, and I was able to hold it together for the double win. Simply amazing and pretty unexpected. I do love Barcelona. It's a track I'm pretty familiar with, but looking at the rest of the calendar I may not be so lucky, particularly if I make it into the red lobby. Thanks for the racing everyone, it's shaping up to be a great season. See you all on track for the next round.
Hey everyone, Hawkey here, and well, what can I say? Round 1 of Season 5, managed to bag myself a feature race podium. Pretty happy with that. Definitely blew off the cobwebs of the summer break that we just had. It felt like a really long summer break. Obviously we didn't do much racing, so round 1 I didn't know what to expect, but I couldn't have asked for anything better for a P2 finish. But obviously last season I was in the BMW M6. I thought I'd do a little bit of a change this season, so I went for the Lamborghini Huracan, and with my blue and red livery, very similar to my BMW. Pre-season testing, I kind of just gelled with the Lamborghini, so I thought I'd run with it, and I think I made the right choice, because Barcelona, it's obviously quite a difficult track, quite a high speed track, but also that comes with high tyre degradation, so probably needed to do a little bit more practice, but I tried my best. But I started in P4 on the medium tyres, and throughout that first stint I had some really good battles with Iceman and Chaos Druid. I remember kind of racing them and fighting with them side by side through some of the corners. I was briefly in first, not for long, because the people in front of me pitted, so I kept their seat warm in P1 for a little bit until I had to come into pits as well. But then on my second stint I went back onto the mediums as well, and then about midway through that I had a good battle with Druid for a couple of laps. We were racing side by side, giving each other lots of room, Druid being quite defensive, me trying to attack and get past. So yeah, it was a good battle between me and him. I could see obviously that I needed to go on a different compounded tyre, which I eventually did, but I saw that Iceman went onto the hard tyres, but my strategy was to go mediums again, then for a set of softs right at the end. And I pitted with 5 laps to go to the soft tyres, but I did put a little bit more of a challenge on my hands. I had 20 seconds between me and Iceman, and I thought there's no way that I'm going to catch up to Iceman with 5 laps to go, trying to get 20 seconds. No way. But somehow I managed to catch up to Iceman right on the very last lap. And I managed to overtake Iceman to reclaim that P2. But what a battle it was between me and Iceman. I could see the time coming down on the timing sheets between me and him. I was trying my best, and I think I was driving the socks off of that Lamborghini. I was probably driving it too hard, but I thought, you know, got to try and catch Iceman here. And no way did Iceman make it easy for me. He was driving the socks off of that Genesis as well. So it was a pretty tough job that I needed to try and overtake him and catch him. So thank you, Iceman, for the little battle. But yeah, managed to reclaim P2 and Iceman in P3. So I'm glad we could finish on the podium after what was a really good battle. But I'm looking forward to the next rounds. And let's see if I can get on the podium again this season. But hope everyone has a good start to the season. And I'll catch you guys later.
Okay, so that was round 1 at Barcelona, season 5. I was really looking forward to this one, and it feels great to be back, honestly, after being away from racing for a little while. Just trying out a new car for this season, once again, just adds another layer of complexity into the whole season. But the car felt really good, honestly. Sprint race was a bit suboptimal. It wasn't, the worst that it could have been, but I felt like I had what it took to be able to get a better result. But yeah, it just feels like the sprints are never my strong point. In qualifying, P4 I was actually quite happy with it, although I felt like I could have done a little bit better, just couldn't get everything together on a proper lap, but still can only be happy with that. And then as for the feature, super eventful, worked out a strategy that I thought that probably wasn't going to work with the one stop. It was a little bit risky, and towards the end I was struggling a while because of the tire wear. But yeah, the car just felt great. Had a really nice battle with Mac until the very end. We were super close to each other throughout the entirety of the race. And yeah, it felt great to finally be able to do some good battles on track and fight for a good position. I think Kai was just out of reach, really. He was super quick, as he always is, super consistent. But yeah, from my side, I can only be happy with these results, and hopefully this sets a trend for the rest of the season, getting some more good results and yeah, getting back to find my little bit of the, not necessarily the motivation, but the confidence as well that I kind of lost, especially throughout the last bit of the last season. And yeah, bring on the next rounds.
Round 1 was pretty good. Big fan of Barcelona in general. I felt coming into the round, maybe we could improve the qualifying pace, but unfortunately I qualified midfield again. But yeah, sprint race as usual, starting from the back, it's nearly impossible to get through the fields in enough time. Got caught up in battles I was probably not supposed to get caught up in, but podium for the feature race, can't complain about that. Cars with solid pace in the race, all of the season last season, and hopefully this season as well.
Engines roar, neon light glow, racing through the night we go. Defend position, don't you slow. Turbo speed, we steal the show. Nighthawk racing, feel the burn around each turn. Victory's earned, passing rivals, nothing's assumed. On the track we are consumed. Adrenaline rush, heartbeat heartbeats race, the thrill of speed taking place. Defend the lead, it's not a chase. Gran Turismo sets the pace. Under moonlit skies we soar, every pass makes spirits roar. Defending honor, never bored, speeding kings on asphalt floors. Through the stadiums we fly by, cheering crowds lighting the sky. Nighthawk warriors reaching high, no defeat will dignify. Nighthawk racing, feel the burn around each turn. Victories earned, passing rivals, nothing's assumed. On the track we are consumed. Adrenaline rush, heartbeats race, the thrill of speed taking place. Defend the lead, it's not a chase. Gran Turismo sets the pace. Under moonlit skies we soar, every pass makes spirits roar. Defending honor, never bored, speeding kings on asphalt floors. Through the stadiums we fly by, cheering crowds lighting the sky. Nighthawk warriors reaching high, no defeat will dignify.